ongoing, and multi-agency teams had even been sent to the United States to Bell Textron Inc. company that manufactured the ill-fated chopper. He noted that the remains of the aircraft had also been taken to the manufacturer to determine the cause of the crash.
Our investigation and inquiry is going on. As the Commander-in-Chief and the President has promised the country, we will avail a very detailed report. The Defense Council will receive it, and the Commander-in-Chief will receive, and the Kenyan taxpayers who fund our military heavily will have an answer, and the family and friends of General Ogola.
The Cabinet Secretary at the same time dismissed claims that most of the military equipment in the country was obsolete and was the cause of most aircraft crashes in the country, saying that he was constantly using the same chopper that killed Ogola. He likewise divulged that the plane that recently killed Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi, the country's foreign minister, and 6 other people was also from the same manufacturer and model.
The helicopter in which the Iranian president died, and the foreign minister and everybody, is the same helicopter.
The same one?
The same one. The same one. It's Bell from the US with the 2 propellers. So we are looking at all our air assets going forward. I agree with you. We had the frequency of incidents in the last 2 years was a bit very high, and that's why at the Defense Headquarters we have tasked the Air Force Commander to do for us an evaluation of all our air assets.
The body of Kenyan climber Cheriot Kirui, who died while attempting to summit Mount Everest without oxygen, will remain on the world's highest mountain, according to his family, putting an end to speculation about whether his remains would be returned home. According to a statement shared by his close friend James Muhia, his family did not want to risk anyone's life by attempting to retrieve his body from where he fell into, which was about 48 meters from the world's highest point. The family intends to hold a memorial service in Nairobi and Chepterit village, with details to be announced soon. Some Mount Kenya leaders claim that UDA's party's popularity is slowly losing points in the region. Led by Jubilee Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni, they say that the ongoing conflict within the party is a clear indication that it may be dissolved before the next general election.
That is why you now see some, movement within UDA, because the people from the mountain who are within UDA cannot be able to go back home and talk about UDA. And I want to tell you here, UDA is over in the mountain. Whether they do grassroots elections or they don't bother with them. It's over. Those who are going to run will run on different parties. Right. Even Ruto himself, I can tell you, will not run on UDA.
This statement comes at a time when differences have emerged within the party, led by President William Ruto, after Secretary General Cleophas Malala threatened to punish 5 UDA members who allegedly disrespected its leadership.
Your recent conduct has not only undermined the party's unity, but also disrespected the leadership that you pledged to serve. Let this be a stern warning. Desist from such actions immediately. And we are saying that should this behavior continue, the party will take disciplinary action against the above mentioned members.
However, Kapseret MP Oscar Sudi and Nyeri Governor Mutahi Kahiga have dismissed Malala's statement and even threatened to fire him from his position.
Any threats from Honorable Cleophas Malala are just hot air, because he holds no substantial position in the party. Nobody elected him, and yes, I think I would want to say that Honorable Cleophas Malala, being in the United Democratic Alliance as Secretary General, is just like a square peg in a round hole. It does not fit, and therefore I think he should hold on to his horses as we carry on with the elections that are ongoing. And one of the targets must be that we'll be able to get him out of that position. And I have said this before, and I will repeat.
That's the Newswire. I'm Lea Ubaga.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we may find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
3, 2.
Everybody, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Nyeri Lafiff, Muga, Madam Du, nimesalimia wote sana.
Tumepokea salamu, asante sana.
Hapa Garissa today the weather is very good, only that baridi inatupeleka mbio sana.
Baridi ni degree ngapi hapo?
Hata sijui lakini madam tunakauka sana.
If you want to follow the money trail, you've got to think like a thief to be able to catch that thief.
A slap from a friend is better than a kiss from an enemy. You remember the kiss of Judas Iscariot? Iscariot.
Yes.
Is the one that imetuweka kwa hii mashida yote na mataabu. Kwa sababu of that kiss. Yet the slap of Jesus Christ when he slapped those guys wenye walikuwa wanauza mboga ndani ya kanisa, took them to heaven.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Revenge is for children. It's for kids. When you grow up, you realize the best revenge you can take on somebody is to ignore them.
Now I'm just naming politics. It is not everybody's cup of tea. That's why some people come in one term and that's it for them.
Political parties in this country do not have ideologies, whether luring or otherwise.
And that is the effect of corruption.
Any time an offense occurs anywhere in the country, it is the job of the Inspector General to look into it. Whether it's corruption, whether it's murder, whether it's petty, that is his job.
If we have chosen to be a corrupt nation, then we produce corrupt leaders. Everything then becomes chaotic that you cannot be able to change a nation.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thursday morning, what's happening with traffic? I think that as we're getting into the morning, probably won't see too much right about now. Let's take a look at what's coming off the Thika Superhighway. Always first there. Actually, not much. We're not seeing much popping off here. We'll probably see that pick up as we get into the morning. There is a little bit of traffic as you're coming off of James Gishuru and you're getting towards the Red Hill Link Road, but that's nothing to be alarmed about, at least not for now. There's traffic also coming off of Jogo Road, a little bit of that here and there, but I think we'll be fine. Okay, coming off of Mombasa Road and looking at the Eastern Bypass, then through towards North Airport Road and then out towards Cabanas. That piles up just a little bit. Let's see what Thursday has in store. We'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Lafiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Otherwise,
Huh?
Otherwise.
Poa sana. Yeah.
Otherwise yako iko fiti.
Otherwise yangu. Wacha nitaifuta. Kwanza alafu nakwambia.
Very good.
Good morning.
Mimi niko poa sana. How is this Friday?
This Friday is all right.
It's good.
It's the 30th.
It's a good one.
Ednah told us today is the 29th, but
alisema hivyo?
Yeah, natupeleka nyuma, wewe unatupeleka mbele. Sasa me now nakuja katikati.
We are not going to July, that's the point.
What? We're not going to July, but we are.
We are not going to. We are not. We are. That's why we are trying to stay back here. Like
to stay in May.
Yeah, May. Yeah, you know.
I see.
Extend May. Give it another Friday.
As much as we can.
Yes.
Okay.
Because ukitoka hapo.
Toka to May.
It's
over.
Yeah. That's it. That's it, man. It's imeenda. Hii imeenda.
Okay.
Siku yako ilikuwaje jana?
What is wrong with my memory? What was yesterday?
At least you remember it's called a memory.
Thanks. It was all right. I chilled, really, for most of the day. I got some work done, so I'm very happy with myself. Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
I did.
Good.
And how are you?
Me, I'm fine. Haya, hizi vitu hata zimekufa hizi headphones.
Ni nini wewe?
You are the dead headphones. Where are the other headphones, Ednah? These ones are dead.
Meaning you can't hear anything?
Nasikia side moja. Side ingine sisikii.
Just say you want Ednah to be here.
Boo.
Boo. Okay, yeah, and my day was okay yesterday.
Shika is where can I easy up?
So now the dead ones are the ones that you will give to me. Yani, I'm dead to you like that?
I'm gifting you.
Wow, dead things. Okay, so no problemo.
Yeah, this one's better. This is it. This is the one. Livestream is up,
Yes.
On this 29th day.
It's the 30th, but you and Ednah, you're on a long thing, man.
Yeah, maisha iko hivi. Maisha iko namna gani?
Hivyo.
Maisha iko namna hii.
So you said your day was fine yesterday?
Mine was fine.
When I left you thrived and survived?
Yeah, I survived.
Okay.
The thriving bit is a
different story.
It's a bit different. Yeah. Anyway, today is Thursday, so the Justice Thursday conversation is going to be happening at 7 a.m. Conflict resolution. What makes a case appropriate for mediation? We know that mediation is a very, very big thing in alternative justice systems. And there's court-mandated mediation, and there's contract-mandated mediation, and all those things, arbitration and all. So there's a difference between all those ones, actually. James Mangerere is a senior advocate of the High Court, and he's the president of the Mediation Training Institute, East Africa. There's such a thing. Mediation Training Institute. They train media people. Okay? And then at 8 o'clock, we'll have finance bill conversation, this time with the Safina party leader, Jimmy Wanjege. He will be joining us at 8 o'clock. Huge debt versus high taxes. So he's been talking about the debt. Debt. Mambo, the problem that we have in this country is debt. Now, with the debt issue, how are we doing? So is there a correlation between the debt and the taxation measures that we're seeing in the Finance Bill 2024?
Sawa.
Jimmy will come and tell us that at what time?
8 o'clock.
At 8 o'clock.
Right.
In the morning.
Thanks.
It's 6:15 a.m. Let's hear what the weather is going to be looking like today, and then we will acknowledge your presence, and then we will look at the newspaper headlines. Good morning, everybody.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning at currently 18 degrees. We'll see highs of 24 and lows of 15. Looking into a mostly clear Nakuru at 13 with highs of 26, and we'll see highs of 25 in a mostly clear Nyeri at 13. Eldoret is clear at 12, highs of 24, and looking into Mombasa, clear at 23 with highs of 30. Malindi at 26 is partly cloudy, highs of 30 as well. And looking into Kisumu, it's clear at 20 with highs of 29 and lows of 19. Kakamega at 17, clear with highs of 25. We'll see lows of 14. Kampala this morning, clear at 21 with highs of 28, while Dar es Salaam at 23 is mostly clear. We'll see highs of 31 and lows of 23. 10 degrees and mostly clear in Johannesburg with highs of 20 and lows of 9, and Mogadishu is partly sunny at 29, I beg your pardon, at 26 with highs of 31. Addis Ababa at 16 is sunny, highs of 27 and lows of 14, while looking into a mostly cloudy Lagos, we'll see highs of 33 and highs of 34 in a partly cloudy Kinshasa at 24. It's 29 and cloudy Thursday afternoon in Beijing, we'll see highs of 33 and lows of 20, while in Paris 12 degrees and cloudy with highs of 16, and London is cloudy at 13 going to highs of 17. Around things off in New York on Wednesday night, rainy at 16, coming into Thursday, highs of 26 and lows of 15.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Nani ameamuka wakati huu?
Kila mtu ameamuka wakati hii. Okay, so good morning everybody. We see you checking in properly today. Moses Nyambura says, good morning Team Spice, tuned in from Westlands. Have a great day ahead. UDA is portraying the meaning of kitumbua kimengia mchanga. What's kitumbua?
Kitumbua? It is that thing.
That doesn't help me. What?
It is that thing that has now entered soil, sand.
Sand has entered the soil.
Sand has entered the thing.
So, good morning team. Mombasa tukundani. Bahati ikikukata hata kwa mganga haitafaa. Everybody's these tongue twisters this morning. Robert Okoh is also tuning from Mombasa. Carol Nyambura says, good morning, everybody. Now, Apenda Sana wishing you a blessed day. Jimmy Wakesa says, good morning as well. Even Zintabo says, good morning. Ndu City, Eric Nyaboke. Ndu say Esabato. Okay, Esabato.
Esabato.
Sabato?
Esabato.
Sabato. Nyahuru Town is tuned in, says Gishire Mwangi. Jimmy Munuthi says, good morning, SpiceFM listeners. Have a lovely day. Good morning, all diaspora to Kondani, says Michael Olande. One Mike is tuned in this morning from Baltimore. And Tibbs Muga says, good morning. The mind is a reality creation device. And the brain is a reality filtration device. What's wrong today? Everybody just feeling somehow deep. Ogani Malala says, good morning from Buruburu. Tano is tuning from Rochester in Minnesota. Robinson Kisero's in Hong Kong and says, good morning. Gloves off, and the UDA brigades are taking the positions for battle. In all this, it's Kenyans who suffer because there's no service delivery. Okay, Desmond Oti says, good morning, Ndu and Lafiff. In Africa, it's all about politics, even after elections. Team Gachagua need to know he's a Kenyan DP and not just for the Kikuyu. Okay. Chris Amoy says, good morning, tuned in today. Hope everybody's doing well. Looking forward to this Justice Thursday, says Sir George Gashoiri. Anthony Minor says, good morning. Eliana Yabesh is also tuned in this morning. Good morning, my country people, says Wilfred Odhiambo. A chilly evening here in the great lands of 10,000 lakes of Minnesota. Tony Mohoho says, good morning. John Mwangi says, have a blessed day. Wairimo is up early today. Okay, late on your side, right? And says, good morning, my people. Which children was Malala talking to? No, wait. What children? Lecture would be an insult to children as well? Yeah, good question. Good morning, great team. You're Claire and Hargeisa. Good morning to you. And Goa, beautiful lady, tuned in this morning as well. Lento says good morning and enjoy the day. Chris Amoy. Okay, now he's talking to everybody else in here. Paul Omondi says, good morning. Nikondani Dani. Good morning to you. Ndu Oga. Happy birthday. It's not my birthday. Whose birthday is it? Let's wish that person a happy birthday. And Oga, we refer to men as Oga.
Oga is men.
Yeah, and Oga is a man. Oga is a Yoruba word for boss guy.
For the boss, and the boss is man.
It's actually a greeting. Ogao. It's like a greet your chieftaincy kind of thing. And it turned out to be something that we call people. Bonjour à tous, says Telly rather. Moses Mwangi is tuning from Kitengela. And sister, what happened again? I see you. Ndu wachana na uongo za eri. Kitumbua ni kama mandazi. Oh, za Eric. Eric, you are lying to me.
It's that thing.
Kitumbua.
Koni mandazi is not that thing.
There are many things that can be referred to as that thing, my dear.
Exactly. If any of those things enters sand,
it's kitumbua.
Kimeumana.
John says kitumbua is a piece of cake. Okay. And we see all of you this morning. John Waikwa, Linus Rainman, Paul Omondi, yes. Japheth Sang, and Jembu. Good morning to everybody. Karibuni sana.
Karibu. Oh my goodness. It's the proverb time.
And you're not ready.
Oh my word.
Let me allow you get ready.
Oh my word.
While I greet people who are on Facebook.
The ones on Facebook. Yes. Say hi to them.
Good morning. Tuning from Muranga is John Brown. Aunt Jack says, good morning. Tune in from Budalangi following the SA elections. Yes, they've gone to the polls. Let's see what happens. It'll be an interesting one coming out. Nixon Otieno says, good morning. Nganga Gishui says, good morning and all the best to everybody today. Really great to have you guys in the room every morning. Thank you for joining us and being here with us this Thursday.
Okay. Today's proverb from Zimbabwe is a very direct translation from one of their languages. Okay, and we are going to take it like that.
Okay.
You hear it in English, translate it into your mother tongue or your Kiswahili, and it will make sense. What is impossible is impossible. You cannot remove pregnancy by coughing.
Hey. Chukunna. Okay.
Ednah nasikia ni kama tunamtaja. Like, no, it's a proverb.
Hey, don't rush.
You can translate it directly. You cannot remove pregnant. Coughing.
I'm trying to.
What's impossible is impossible. So,
okay. It's not possible, it's not possible.
It's not possible.
Just leave it like that.
Just leave it. Okay?
Cannot remove pregnancy by coughing. Yeah. It will. Okay.
Headlines.
On the front page of the Standard today. UDA's war of words. The megaphone is on, the batteries are charged, things are thinging. A stern warning by UDA Secretary General Cleophas Malala to politicking cabinet secretaries and warring politicians from factions allied both to President William Ruto and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua has triggered a vicious intra-party battle that is threatening to implode the ruling party as leaders trade words. They didn't even take the 10 steps back and turn around. They just released it from the holster. Well, we'll look at details of that. Ruto's master stroke as DP as he slashes confidential votes. Was this a stroke to the DP or was it just a reduction in terms of cost from each office?
Maybe kuna kakiru kwa hiyo story.
Lakini ametoa 800 million kwa ofisi yake. Ametoa 880 kwa deputy president.
More than deputy president 880.
Yeah.
And the president 800.
Yeah. Then from prime cabinet secretary 150 million.
As in, so what was this money for? 800 million shillings has been removed. What was it?
See, to run the office of the president. I'll give you the details.
Yeah.
But then also from the chief of staff, Felix Koske, they've removed 60 million. So, I'll give you the details of that in that story as we go along. But just be knowing, Nikama, everything is not okay. Now, there's a vaccine shortage and it's hit infants hard amid funding cuts. This is not funny. When we start to see that children have been affected and things that they could be protected from in a shot, literally, and that some life-threatening diseases, then, your radar is up. Clinicians, they're saying, okay, we're on strike. Yes, we are. You want the strike to end? Bring 3 billion.
Okay.
In fact, not just 3 billion, 3.5 billion. 3.5 billion is on the table. Tomorrow,
we'll be back
to work. Before then, it can never be us. Jubilee declares a record 1 billion shilling dividend. Siwagawa watu
Jubilee akioni?
Hapana, health insurance.
Oh.
You would have been shocked, like
Uhuru amemwaga pesa.
Lemure 3 worked.
Uhuru amemwaga pesa.
Wagawe kidogo wapa watu wa clinician. It's all health.
Yeah.
SRC lacks powers to set salaries on its own. The court has spoken. You on your own, you can't just be deciding willy-nilly.
So who else should do that?
So they'll tell us. Them.
This is, I'm sure, is on a matter that touches them, the judges and their allowances.
Of course.
I'm sure. I have the front pages of the other papers. Okay. Wataka tuanze wapi?
At the beginning.
Tuanze at the very top, eh? Ukitaka kufaulu, anzia juu na Vaseline hair tonic. There used to be an advert like that. Yeah. The People Daily. Storm in a teacup. No. Storm in Ruto's party.
You're in fine form this morning.
That is what the People Daily is saying. UDA Sec-Gen Cleophas Malala reads the Riot Act to define ministers and other leaders seen to undermine the DP and threatens unspecified disciplinary action. The front page of Taifa Leo. Mnara wa Babeli, UDA, the Tower of Babel. Okay? Misukosuko ikiendelea katika chama cha UDA. Kiongozi wa chama hicho, Rais William Ruto, hajasema lolote, hasa baada ya wabunge kuonekana kumshambulia naibu wake hadharani. They're saying basically that as there is msukosuko in this party, the leader of the party, Rais, his mum.
Okay.
Especially after his members of parliament are seen to publicly be speaking about his debut.
Party, his debut.
Yes.
And he should actually say something.
Tika headlines on the Taifa Leo. Kalenda mpya ya shule yatolewa. Wizara ya elimu yasema wanafunzi wataanza likizo fupi ya katikati ya muhula Juni 26 badala ya Juni 20. Half term.
All right. Got it.
Okay. And then there's a story. Aliyetumia jina la Raila achunguzwa. Faith Mwekali Ndiwa ajidai kuwa daktari wa kibinafsi wa kiongozi wa Azimio Raila Odinga. He's about a story of a woman who has been going around parading herself and saying she's a doctor's president, she's a president's doctor. She's Raila's doctor. She's story inside that Taifa Leo. The Business Daily. No, let's go to the Nation first. UDA in turmoil. Deputy President Gachagua denies claims of scouting for a new political party.
I beg you.
The divide. President William Ruto's party is fast becoming another Tower of Babel as infighting, reminiscent of the discord that plagued the Jubilee outfit during President Kenyatta's administration, escalates. Yesterday, UDA Secretary General Cleophas Malala intensified the war of words by demanding the resignation of outspoken cabinet secretaries Kipchumba Murkomen, Moses Kuria over the political activities. And then they have the quotes of the various people and what they said. Cleophas himself says cabinet secretaries Kuria and Kipchumba Murkomen have been engaging in political activities contrary to the law, which requires them to remain apolitical. Let's go to the responses from those two cabinet secretaries, okay? Moses Kuria. I don't agree with Rigathi Gachagua.
That was it.
He's responding to Cleophas Malala. I don't agree with Rigathi Gachagua. Solutions to the country's problems have no forwarding address. Nothing like, if you have a problem, go to so and so. Who are you?
Wow.
Kipchumba Murkomen, who's the other one who's being told, no, you're a minister, you cannot be engaging in politics. So Kipchumba's response is, as a cabinet secretary, I cannot respond to political statements. Strike, huh?
Big time.
And then we have the governor of Nairobi, Johnson Sakaja. Finally, he found his voice. You cannot bully people for 2 years.
Just been bullied.
2 years. And start crying just after being mentioned for in 1 week until you go into hiding in the bush. Bullies are the biggest cowards. 2 years.
Only.
He himself Did he say that he's being bullied?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it's not him.
Maybe
Oscar Sudi says, you cannot control where I go. If we all stayed in our constituency, we would not be in government. We had to fly all over the country to ask Kenyans to elect this government. Psh, surely. Regarding himself, some politicians around the president want to meddle in Mount Kenya politics to fight me. Central Kenya politics is so complicated and we hate betrayal. As Mount Kenya, we have never interfered with Rift Valley politics and we deserve respect. That's what he said. Respect. Respect. There's a photo here, a very big photo, very wide photo on the front page of the Nation. President William Ruto and heads of state and government pose for a photo during the 2024 annual general meeting of the African Development Bank Group at the KICC.
It's true. William Ruto and Additional were dancing.
He was there with Additional.
Yeah.
Additional, what kind of bow tie did he have this time?
Additional, I think he did. He had a tie.
He had a proper tie.
Yeah. Oh, or am I wrong? It's
What's
possible
happened?
It's possible that I'm wrong.
What's happened? No, he had a bow tie.
He had a bow tie.
Kawaida.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Okay.
There are things that we have to check whether was it green or not. CDF at 20, how the billions changed the game. They have an interview with former Olkalau MP Morioki Karue, who is the one who brought the bill on CDF to Parliament 20 years ago. Finance bill, Parliament begins public hearings on proposals. Dispute, why green gold ban has sparked a storm. The recent ban on Moga trade in Mombasa and Kilifi threatens significant revenue losses and jeopardizes the livelihoods of those invested in this industry. Opposition fights ANC in courts and on the ballot. They're looking at the South African election. KNUT and Kupet in battle for JSS teachers. 40,000 teachers. Can you imagine if you got those 40,000 as your members, as a union? Pesa yote inakuja kwako, my friend. Big deal. Higher. The Business Daily. Kenya Power to compensate consumers after blackouts.
What?
I will repeat. Kenya Power to compensate consumers after blackout.
Which one specifically? Yani
Kenya Power and
past.
Lightning.
No, wait. The blackouts that happened in the past, there's an upcoming blackout, one that happened last week.
Prepaid customers will get free tokens from Kenya Power, while those on postpaid will see their bills netted off as compensation for irregular or poor quality electricity supply and unannounced blackouts in fresh regulations. This is contained in fresh regulations proposed by the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, and that is awaiting parliamentary approval. That's been published now for public input. Currently, Kenya Power offers compensation for injuries or damaged assets, but does not compensate financial losses resulting from hiccups such as blackouts.
Don't hold your breath.
The Energy, Electricity Reliability, Quality of Supply and Services Regulations 2024 will tighten the noose on Kenya Power and increase frequency of outages that have at times lasted more than 24 hours. The regulator will determine how the affected consumers are compensated.
Okay.
If this thing passes, and you're evil. Blackout like this. Tumakakiru. They also have a photo of the AFDB's 10-year strategy launch. We have President William Ruto. We have Treasury CS Jogona Dongo. We have AU Commission Chairman, the current one, and not the future one, the current President, the Chairman of the AU Commission, Musa Faki. And then we have Adeshina, who is the President of the African Development Bank, Akinwumi Adeshina. In his bow tie, it was grey. Or is it blue? I think it looks blue. Kerry makes U-turn on 16% VAT for golf clubs. Annual subscription and entrance fee for golf club members will from June start attracting a 16% VAT if the High Court supports KRAs in levying the tax. In a case pending judgment, the Commissioner of Domestic Taxes wants the court to overturn a March 2020 decision by the Tax Appeals Tribunal that blocked KRA from demanding the tax from golf clubs. If you want to join a golf club, Econ Value Addition.
Do you know what is going to happen very soon?
16%.
If you want to go to the CBD, you'll be planning and scheduling in advance. They'll say, are you going 16% to enter the CBD for a certain number of hours? Wait and see. That's the way we are going.
Yeah. But we should go that way. Because where are you going to town?
Good Lord. You have things to do.
Squeezy, call. Can you not just, can't you call?
Can't it be a Zoom call?
Can't you be a Zoom call?
See how technology has spoiled you people.
Yeah. What is it you're going to do?
to walk about.
If it is a government service, you go to e-citizen. If it's a bank, go to online banking.
Okay.
What are you going to do? There's
So if you're going to go
e-commerce.
to
If
the
you want to
CBD,
buy
they
a
charge you.
kununua kiatu, e-commerce. Go to their IG. Yeah. Call the duty guy to deliver. You want to go to town, pay. Even me, I support.
Wow.
25 to 7. Tell us about traffic.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
Okay, around about a few minutes after 6:30, let's see what has built up on the roads this morning. All right. I think we're still doing okay, at least for the most part right now. The map is not mapping. Okay, where are we? There's some traffic coming off Thika Superhighway, nothing crazy at this point. And different parts of the city is still starting to build up. We're seeing movement here and there on the right around that Pangani underpass area. But coming in from Westerns, we're all right. And also on Jogoro, just a little bit of it as we look at also Kangundo Road starting to pile and Gong Road on the other side. Let's take a look what happens as we come closer to traffic hour. Where are you? Stuck anywhere? Let us know. We'll talk SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Ongea.
Wacha ni kwa sound ongea. Cleophas Malala said, your recent conduct and not only undermines the party's unity, but also disrespects the leadership that you pledged to serve. Let this be a stern warning. Desist from such actions. Desist from such actions with immediate effect. Moses Korea says, I know he is being used to poke holes in me, but I will not respond.
Who, Malala now? Okay.
Let the country keep up with my major political announcement on August 20th.
August 20th.
I'm telling you, it's coming.
Moses Korea is
Wait.
It's
from
the
then
30th
onwards.
of May.
Yes, no.
So we wait for June 20th.
You just
July 20th. Then August 20th.
I'm keeping you in anticipation.
Ednah, August 20th, Moses Korea. What day will it be?
We'll see. But what he wants you to understand is that it will not be
He's
business
making a major
as usual.
political statement.
Major political announcement, not statement. That is what I want you people to focus on.
20th of August is a Tuesday.
Okay, it's a Tuesday. There'll
We
be an
have booked
announcement.
it. It'll be here.
Let's see what that will be.
Okay.
Oscar Sudi, who is the Member of Parliament for Kapseret, says Malala is an elevated MCA, suffering from illusion. I don't even think he knows what this word means, but okay. Illusory superiority, thinking he matches Raphael Tuju's caliber. My God.
Are you saying?
Do you know how to insult somebody intelligently?
What does that mean?
Illusory.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
What is Sudi saying?
Exactly.
That he's suffering from?
Illusory
superiority complex.
No, there's no complex, just superiority.
What is illusory superiority? What's that?
That is why I said that even the person who is insulting, I'm not quite sure if he knows what he's saying.
Okay.
But he's just basically saying that...
is he insulting Malala and Tuju at the same time?
No. He's insulting Malala, thinking that at some point he could even try and imagine that he could be a Tuju.
But remember, reference to Tuju here could be because of what Tuju had tried to do when he was Secretary General of Jubilee, and he was telling the Tanga people what to do. And the Tanga people would respond to Tuju and say, kwaenda huko.
Perhaps. Or he could
Maybe
just be saying
that
even
you're trying to be like that guy.
Or he could say that in the position of a Secretary General, we respected this fella, and you now you're trying to behave as if you're not even near.
We know they did not respect Tuju. We know Oscar Sudi cannot now rewrite history.
The angel you know and the devil you know. Now the person that you kicked out before suddenly has become an angel.
Okay.
Because the one that you see today is trying to measure up and he does not.
Okay.
Mutahi Kahiga says, acting SG, he had to say, acting SG Malala in UDA is a square peg in a round hole. He doesn't fit. I have said it before, and I repeat, we must get rid of him in the coming UDA election. Not maybe, shall we? He must do what? Get away. So, when Malala comes and says you people should behave yourself, others says, what? Who do you think you're talking to? I'll teach you a lesson.
Everybody has responded.
Everybody has responded.
Those in Gashagua's side, those on Gachagwa's opposite side, all of them, that is a masterstroke for Malala.
I'm telling you.
He has united the party.
In one voice.
Yes.
Whether it be against him, it doesn't really matter.
He has united the party.
But he's brought them together. He accused the cabinet secretaries of engaging in political activities, which is against the law, and that requires them to remain apolitical. Here, right. He reminded Kuria of his duty to serve the public within his dockets and directed Murkomen to address issues in his ministry, especially the reclamation of roads damaged by the recent floods. Should you wish to engage in politics, you're welcome to resign and join the political arena. Serve the Kenyan people or step down from your position and return to politics.
Fantastic.
Now let me tell you something. If you believe that Malala is speaking on his own, where he's standing, where his 2 feet are planted, you even knew your illusory superiority.
What? Who do you think Malala is speaking on behalf of?
Come on.
Who? Tell me.
The president.
But why would the president be telling Kipchumba to resign?
Not. Of course, I think that he added Maggie.
Why would the president be telling? Why would the president be telling Oscar Sudi to shut up?
What's the standalone message here? Sitfanye tu kazi yetu. That's the message here. That's the message.
Kila mtu afanye kazi.
The flowers all around and all these things that you're saying, he has to add to make it seem as though, I'm the one who's basically telling you as SG, where the party, we promised that we were going to deliver a certain agenda for Kenyans. Now you people are running around talking about who is flying where in helicopters, bringing 24 million and others want to unite Mount Kenya. No, do your work. You're supposed to be apolitical. If you cannot be apolitical, here's the door. Basically, the message behind all of this is, hey, guys, we do our work. Cannot do your work and you want to be the
If you're a state officer, you should not engage in politics.
Merci beaucoup bien. This is what we are saying essentially. But for him to have, I don't even want to say, it's not effrontery or temerity, the boldness to say it in the manner in which he said it. My friend, he's wind assisted. Definitely.
He can't dare.
If he didn't have the backing
of the owner of the party.
The owner of the party. The creator of the party to speak like this, you think he would? Does he not know the jackals that he's speaking to in the form of Oscar Sudi and Moses Kuria and everybody else? He knows who those guys are.
So boss is telling his deputy, wacha kutangatanga.
Fanya kazi. The same boss who was told,
Okay, bring in the Nairobi governor.
Now, where did he go to? He's here. I'm finding this.
Is he in the Standard story?
He's not in this story.
He's not in the Standard. But we saw he's in the Nation story. The Nairobi governor now comes up and says, you have been bullying people left, right and center for the last 2 years. 2 years. You've bullied people.
You're
If
talking
this
anyhow.
county, you go to the other county, you're bullying people. And then now you're just mentioned for 1 week. You cry all over.
Complaining that people are, you can't take it. My friend, you should be able to take what you serve. You serve it now, we're serving it to you hot and you can't take it. My friend, grow a pair. You just here making noise anyhow. You don't know that bullies are actually some of the worst individuals. Now you've seen how it feels. Don't come here and start making noise for us when we have important matters to address. Just behaving anyhow, like a little boy in the playground who they stole his ball. Stop it.
So these guys are basically just openly demeaning the deputy president.
Yes.
Openly.
Yeah.
Like directly like that.
With not caring for Jack. And it's very early in the game, is it not?
Hey. You know this whole thing of Tangatanga and Kieleweke? Gojiri Wambogo was a member of parliament for Nyeri town. And he's the one who coined the Kieleweke phrase.
Yeah.
Kitaeleweka. You know? This thing that we are seeing guys doing. Kitaeleweka.
You'll see, you will know.
Kitaeleweka. Now Gojiri is on this other side of Tangatanga. And this, Gojiri Wambogo should come and speak to us, but he can't.
Not now.
No, he can't speak to us now. Anyway, this game, wacha kaende. The owner of the party is quiet. But the owner of the party was in America the other day.
Yeah.
And the owner of the party signed off Kenya to be a member of NATO, a non-member ally.
Non-ally member.
Of NATO. And now because of that, now we're even starting to fight the Houthis, rebels in Yemen, and we have joined that and all this and the other. The question number one is, can a president actually go and sign off something like this? unilaterally? Is there a process that needs to be ratified by the people of Kenya and say, all right, we are aligning ourselves with NATO?
This is, I think it's
Can he choose a side on our behalf?
On behalf of people? Technically, it's a conversation that they had to say, yeah, we'll support you. But because you're dealing with a sovereign state whose power is vested in its people, and then you make a decision about their livelihoods and what could potentially be a state of conflict or war in the future, by virtue of the fact that you say you're going to align with another nation, you bring in that reality that whether it's peacetime or conflict, that you allied with certain people in a certain area. You open up your fronts, you have ports all over the place, which you give everybody access to. So what are you saying? That no matter what happens, by virtue of the fact that you're allied to them, you take the same position. What about the 50 million people who are sitting here waiting for you to come back? Have they agreed to this? Did you even float it to them before and say, well, these are the conversations that we'll be having over a cuppa when I go to the US? Did you? Did Kenyans now suddenly know that when America wants to fight somebody else, that you are then, because of this alignment, you're on the same side?
Yeah.
Yeah? It's a big deal, my friend.
Is it? Should this, I don't know, should this matter be discussed by Parliament?
I think so.
When you say that you're not a member, but you're aligning yourself with this side or the other side.
Plus, we know that policies of administrations tweak from administration to the next. What is the clear policy of the Ruto administration when it comes to alignment with nations?
What's our foreign policy?
What's the foreign policy? What is the foreign policy? We know that American foreign policy, no matter what, even though it does get its tweaks here and there, is that the United States of America is number one. When you come to things like the Patriot Act, when you come to issues of wartime and peacetime and conflict, when you come to issues of naval enforcement around the world, bases 1, 2, 3, you know that that's what their policy is. What's Kenya's when it comes to things like this?
So now there's an octogenarian called Goga Wadiongo. He's a literary professor, and he has written an open letter to President William Ruto, and he mentions a number of things. For example, I'll quote him verbatim. He says, "I saw you seated on a chair, grinning, while Biden stood behind you, his face beaming with satisfaction. Why not? He had just announced that you had signed off our beloved Kenya to make it a non-member ally of NATO. In other words, you had agreed to become NATO's errand boy in America's struggle with Russia and China for access to resources of the continent." Well, the US designated Kenya as a non-member ally of NATO, a move that President Joe Biden said was in recognition of Kenya's many years of contributions to the US command area of responsibility. Ruto had said that this partnership would help confront criminals and terrorists who deter our economic growth and prosperity. But Thiongo highlighted NATO's legacy of leading the purge on former Libyan leader, the late Muammar Gaddafi, whose country is a member of the African Union. Ruto, Professor Goga Thiongo said, "Do you know that NATO murdered Muammar Gaddafi? Gaddafi was once the chairman of the African Union, of which Kenya was a founding member." Similarly, Professor Ngoga Wadiongo castigated the deployment of the Kenya police to Haiti, recounting the struggle the Caribbean nation underwent to free themselves from their French masters, then led by the most astute of military strategists, Napoleon Bonaparte. While you were inside the White House, Haitians were in the streets demonstrating, calling you a slave. Do you know the history of Haiti? Please read The Black Jacobins, the book written by a once Jomo Kenyatta Pan-African ally, C.L.R. James. Haiti, now a black people's state, used to be a slave colony of France, but led by Toussaint Louverture, Haiti, the richest colony of its time, fought French slavery, and in 1804 it seized its independence. See, said Thiongo. He's telling the president, come on.
Get serious.
Come on.
How can you?
Yeah, let's see whether anybody will even respond to this thing. Oh, the story of Nani was Sakaja was
It's in the Standard, actually. I've just seen it myself.
You've seen it?
Yeah. He joined a growing list of critics targeting Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua after unleashing a scathing attack against the second in command. Sakaja, who spoke during a UDA delegates conference at Bomas, accused Gachagua of disrespecting leaders. You can't be bullying people for 2 years. When you are only mentioned for just 1 week, you start crying. Bullies are the biggest cowards. You even went to the forest. I don't know where. If you want respect, respect other leaders. If you don't respect other leaders, then respect the people who put them there. He told Gachagua to run for the Nairobi County Governor seat in the next election. Since he did not respect him as an elected official, you want to come and run, let's see if you can hack it. I've been through a lot, and I'm not easily intimidated. Nobody has the right to say I was given the seat. I was elected in 2027. You are free to run for any elective post and be the Nairobi Governor, he said. The background of Sakaja's tiff with the Deputy President stems from the ongoing Nairobi UDA chairmanship elections, pitting the governor against Embakasi North MP James Gakuya, who is Gachagua's ally. People are shouting that all of this thing, people just making noise. Now that's what we're talking about. Guess what? The Finance Bill 2024 is still on the table.
Still rolling.
Is still rolling. There are issues that are still being discussed. Now, while that is happening, budget cuts are going on because the finance bill directly engaged to budget 2024. Now, what they're calling a master stroke, they're saying Gachagua and Mudavadi hit by budget cuts. President William Ruto has played a master stroke on his deputy Rigathi Gachagua, who must now accept the slashing of 880 million shillings from his confidential account in this year's budget. Ateke.
Confidential account. All right.
Also, to lose more than 50% of their confidential vote is the president himself, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi and the head of Public Service Felix Koskei. The slashed funds added to a further 1 billion will form a kitty that Ruto will channel to the Coffee Cherry Fund and the war against alcohol, as well as the planting of 10 billion trees. Right. Coffee farmers have been on the warpath against the government over its failure to factor in money for waiving debts owed by coffee societies in the 2024-2025 budget. Faced by constant complaints by coffee farmers after his election, President Ruto appointed his deputy to spearhead reforms in the coffee, dairy and tea sectors, which Kenya Kwanza complained had been captured by cartels. I don't know if the cartels now are done, but okay. So all this money that they're slashing, 800 million from the president, 880 million from the deputy president, is 150 million from Musalia Mudavadi's fund, 50 million, 60 million from Felix Koskei. Now they're going to put all that money in one place and they're going to fund coffee and plant 10 billion trees. Yeah.
But let me ask you, when you say slashing, are we talking about what they were receiving in this year versus what they'll be receiving in the next year?
Yes.
So why is our budget going up if everything is being slashed?
It's being slashed. It's some crazy magician's mathematics. I don't understand.
Why is our budget moving from 3.6 trillion to 3.9 trillion if everything is being slashed?
Because here alone,
so what's
here in this money, for example, you've already removed some 1 point something billion.
And this is recurrent. This is just part of the recurrent vote.
Yeah.
When a guy, what the effing F is a confidential vote? Confidential.
It just sounds good, eh? It just sounds
confidential
like
means that you don't ask me.
Don't ask, don't tell.
Still.
Yeah, don't ask.
It's the money that
tell.
you're given. You decide what you want to do with it.
Yeah, as in.
So
it's
as in,
perk.
these guys were getting 1 billion shillings in each of their offices.
Think about it. Right now, getting still
for confidential. Felix Koskei is the chief of staff for the president and head of public service. Why does he need a confidential vote? To do what? Akienda wapi? He is the senior public officer. He's a public servant.
Doing things.
What does Felix Koskei need a confidential vote for? To do what?
Of 100 million shillings.
To do what? To do what?
I don't know.
See, he has a salary.
Yes.
He has allowances.
One would hope.
He has an office.
Yeah.
He has vehicles. So why does the head of public service need a confidential vote? What is it?
It's a perk that you can decide, okay, this one will come from the head of public service,
Now, what I mean, what is that?
Eyelids opened to how much waste is actually happening here. You can ask that question. Why does the Prime Cabinet Secretary need what? They removed 150 million from his, so it remains how many? if they removed 150 million, his own now remains what? We don't even know. So he had 300 million shillings. So you ask, what is this money for? What is this money for? This 800 that comes from the president, what is it for? 880 that comes from the deputy president.
We are slashing by 800 million shillings.
And the office is still standing.
Yeah. There was over $1 billion shillings that's going into a confidential account.
So the remaining money
if you
now
could
is
actually survive without the 800 million shillings, you can survive without the whole kitty.
I dare say that even the 600 million that's left for the president, you can survive without it. The 320 million that's left for the deputy president, you can also survive without it, because what is it for?
And then we are saying that now that money has been reallocated now to go into planting trees. Planting trees.
The 2000 said, now that question that you're angry asking me, it's to pay for mandazi na sherehe na namna hii namna ile. Salmon. Sasa wewe unafikiria pesa ya salmon itatoka wapi?
Pesa ya salmon iko. There's a vote for salmon and tea and assist golden. Iko. This is confidential.
This is different. As in, don't ask me what I used it for. Just know that this money was there. Ikiisha jua tu nilitumia. But don't ask me questions.
And so until now, because we are so philanthropic, we have actually deducted the money, and there's a master stroke. We have removed 880 from Rigathi Gachagua. So now hana pesa ya kwenda harambee na nini. All right, let's just assume that's what the money is for. But we are taking to plant trees.
Sasa, that's
to plant trees.
That's what makes sense. So now when there's a
this planting trees thing is
10 billion of them
inakuwa confidential.
Sasa haitakuwa confidential sababu si mtaplant tree.
Ati you shall take it to the coffee share fund. Still those things that you can't actually account for.
You can't actually.
We shall use it to fight alcohol abuse. They just spent 300 million shillings in this campaign of Juzi of shutting down all liquors and reopening and vetting, and 300 million shillings ilienda
to shut down.
Yes.
Kufunga.
The supplementary budget that's before Parliament now is to approve that expenditure that has already happened. So this is where the 800 million shillings from the guy will go into this thing of
make sure that
fighting alcohol.
At least kidogo, and then planting 10 billion trees. How many things do you think are untold, unasked, unaccounted for of this nature?
See, we just, just go attach yourself to a vine, right?
And then?
And just ripen and become yellow. Because that's what you are. You're a malenge. Ungoja tukupike, tukule.
We grade you and add you to chapati because at this rate, now you see that money like that was just now this is why people who strike have such a very, very difficult time, right? Teachers who over time they've been deciding where we're going to go. Doctors went on strike. Others, clinical officer says, you know what? 3.5 billion shillings. You want to talk to me? Talk to me in 3.5 billion. That's how we're going to discuss it. That's the kind of discussion that we're going to have. You want us to come back to hospitals?
Can you tell the clinical officers we are fighting alcohol?
You have billions just sitting, doing, or you people have been...
We are fighting alcohol, okay. And now we have to put a coffee share fund. Okay.
They said that you guys want us to come back to work, bring 3.5 billion. Without 3.5 billion, it can never be us.
Hakuna pesa, but see the president aliwaambia the other day.
In fact, that remaining 600 million in the president's office, the 320 in Rigathi.
Doctors should understand, we are all tightening our belts. Can't you see we have cut our budget?
150 mebaki kwa Musalia Mudavadi, alafu 40 million mebaki kwa Felix Koskei. Mix them, gather them, bring that money. Give clinical officers. That's how they'll come back to work.
Ni Kenya. Sawa.
By the way, somebody's asking that 10K that they were supposed to give flood victims. Ilienda hapi?
Oh, by the way. You'll go and find we have given 1 billion shillings to flood victims.
My God.
You will find some people, there's a list of people who have received 10,000.
Whether they're flood victims or not is a totally different story.
See in Kenya. You wait and hear. It is Thursday. Our Justice Thursday conversation is coming up in the next hour, 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
It's now 7 a.m. Get effective relief from strong pain with Panadol Extra. Panadol. Relief starts here.
The hour on Vibes Radio.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. The coast clinical officers have vowed to continue with their strike until the government addresses their grievances. The clinical officers under the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers have been on strike for 60 days now. Chairperson Peterson Wachira said they have so far agreed on 7 out of 10 issues with the Ministry of Health. Among the 3 issues not agreed on is the allocation of 3.5 billion shillings needed to employ officers on contract, on permanent and pensionable terms. Wachira said the government has not shown goodwill to address the issues.
Tulikuwa na matatizo 10 na mpaka sasa ni moja tu tunaweza sema limeweza kutekelezwa na serikali kuu. Hayo mengine yote bado hayajaweza kutekelezwa. Tumekuwa na mazungumzo na Wizara ya Afya, tumekuwa na mikutano 3 na Council of Governors. Tukajadiliana vile ambavyo tunaweza kusuluhisha hayo matatizo, na lakini wakawa tena kwa wiki iliyopita wakasema wanaondoka nchini, wanaenda ugaibuni kwa ajili ya kuattend World Health Organization conference.
Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja has unleashed a scathing attack on Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua over what he terms as bullying and disrespect. Speaking during a UDA delegates conference, Sakaja took a swipe at the Deputy President, accusing him of stomping on other elected leaders but crying foul when the same energy is directed at him.
For 2 years, unabuli kila mtu, hii county ndo huyo, hii county ndo huyo. Unatajwa wiki moja, unazama, unalia. You know, bullies are the biggest cowards. Do you know that? Bullies are the maka unenda siju kwa msitu, siju wapi.
This event comes as Jubilee Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni has said that due to the differences in UDA, it's slowly losing popularity in Mount Kenya region.
That is why you now see some, movement within UDA, because the people from the mountain who are within UDA cannot be able to go back home and talk about UDA. And I want to tell you here, UDA is over in the mountain. Whether they do grassroots elections or they do not, they don't bother with them. It's over. Those who are going to run will run on different parties. Even Ruto himself, I can tell you, will not run on UDA.
UDA Secretary General Cleophas Malala has, however, sent out a warning to individuals who are disrespecting the party's leadership.
Your recent conduct has not only undermined the party's unity, but also disrespected the leadership that you pledged to serve. Let this be a stern warning. Desist from such actions immediately. And we are saying that should this behavior continue, the party will take disciplinary action against the above-mentioned members.
The Atheist in Kenya Society has been invited by Parliament's Prayer Breakfast Committee to attend the National Prayer Breakfast at the Safari Park Hotel, which will be taking place this morning. This invitation is unprecedented in Kenyan history and a welcomed gesture. Harrison Mumia, the president of the Atheists in Kenya Society, will represent the society during this event. And in international news, ballot counting is underway after South Africans queued long into the night to vote in a watershed election that could spell the end of the ANC's 30-year-old unchallenged majority. Counting began in each voting station shortly after polls closed in some cities, long after the planned 9 p.m. Wednesday shutdown, with long queues of voters snaking into the night. The final result is not expected to be known before the weekend, but observers will score turnout figures and partial results to predict whether the ruling ANC has finally lost its overall parliamentary majority. If President Cyril Ramaphosa's party drops below 50% for the first time since it came to power in 1994 in South Africa's first democratic post-apartheid election, it will force him to seek coalition partners if he is to be re-elected by Parliament to form a new government. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
All right, getting into traffic hour in no time now. Let's take a look at what's going on these streets. Traffic still starting to build up on the Thika Superhighway. Nothing crazy at the moment. We're seeing traffic coming in from the junction from Outer Ring and then out towards the CBD. That will continue for some time. It's also getting to be quite busy on Kiambu Road as well as on Limuru Road this morning. And our usual trajectory of traffic coming in from Westlands into the CBD. Jogo Road is busy here and there. And also a little bit of traffic as you get in from Langata Road. Getting onto that junction, going towards Raila Odinga Way, some traffic as well. Outer Ring, getting in from North Airport Road and also the other side from Embakasi, there's some traffic that's starting to build up here as well. We're getting into Thursday proper. Let's see what happens as we get into traffic hour. We'll talk in the meantime on SpiceFM. KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Lafiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Okay, 7 minutes after 7. How are you doing? Welcome to the second hour of the Situation Room. This is SpiceFM, KTN Home, YouTube, Facebook, Radio Garden, everywhere where we live stream the show every weekday morning. Mambo is like that. ITIMS. Yesterday we had a conversation with a tax expert from the ITIMS office of KRA, and he said a number of things. So you doing business as an individual, as an entity, as a company, and you are invoicing somebody, you need to generate an ITIMS invoice.
Yeah.
Okay? It's you need to generate a tax invoice, and this is important. If you're a big entity, you're able to then do it through the bigger platform, the Teams. This was the original ETRs. Now they can connect. Immediately you generate an invoice, it transmits the invoice to KRA. If you're a small entity and you're wondering, okay, so how do I do that? You didn't have the ETR, you can just go to the eTeams through the eTeams.kra.go.ke, or you can go through the eCitizen.kra.go.ke, or you can do the USSD code *222#, and you're then able to generate an eTeams invoice. Why is it important?
Because we want to be able to know, and you can track your payments here and there. At the end of the day, we want you to be compliant, isn't it? And KRA is saying, look, you spent money, you earn money, and all of this money then is subject to a particular kind of tax. But let's just make sure that everything is aligned, and it will give you a very easy time now when you're putting all your payments together and making sure that all your returns are done properly. We just want to be able to make sure that everybody's on the grid. Yes, very important.
All of that is very, very important. It's a big thing. It's our Justice Thursday, and our conversation this time is going to be a very big interest to the following people. Cleo Malala, the Secretary General of UDA. Cabinet Secretaries Moses Kuria, Kipchumba Murkomen, and others. Members of Parliament, Kinagadhoni wa Mushomba, Oscar Sudi, and others. Governors, Mutahi Kahiga, Johnson Sakaja, and others. What makes a case appropriate for mediation? That's our topic for Justice Thursday. And we are joined by Mr. James Mangerere. He is a senior advocate of the High Court and the president of the Mediation Training Institute, East Africa. James, good morning.
Morning, everybody.
Karibu sana wakili.
Yes.
What's the difference between a senior counsel and a senior advocate?
Well, senior counsels, usually they apply. There's a criteria where people apply and they are vetted, and then they are conferred that position as senior counsel. The senior advocate is a person who has practiced for so many years and has experience, but has not applied for that particular position.
Yeah. How many years do you need to serve to call yourself a senior advocate?
Well, for me, I've gone more than 23, 24 years now. And so I believe If that terminology, senior, means that a number of years that you have been in practice, I think I qualify to be in that position.
Karibu sana senior.
Yes.
That's the hot seat of the Situation Room.
I'm ready for that.
We've been on air for how many weeks now? More than 50 episodes. We have been here for more than 100 episodes. So we are the senior show on radio and TV and
Maybe
online.
1,000 actually.
Yeah. Many.
Easily 1,000 plus.
Many. 52 weeks times 4. Okay. I have the day's proverb. Our senior city Muga is not in today. He's working remotely. And so he left me with the proverbs. The proverbs for this week are from Zimbabwe. Have you been to Zimbabwe? Have you trained mediators in Zimbabwe?
I've trained in Zambia and in Malawi. I'm planning to train in Zimbabwe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Zimbabwe proverb, when you go there, they'll give you this proverb. And we want you to give us your interpretation. Now, this one is clearly a very direct translation from whatever language they said it in Zimbabwe. So we are translated into English. When you hear it, I'm sure you're going to translate it directly into your mother tongue, and then you'll understand.
I do so.
What is impossible is impossible. You cannot remove pregnancy by coughing.
Well, I think what that means is that if you want anything to happen, you have to do something about it. So you can't wish things to happen. You know, sometimes we find ourselves in helpless situations where every time we are in such situations, we want somebody else to help us. So I think that proverb tells you that you must do something. Mtaka ja mfunguni, sharti ainame.
Kabisa. Yeah. Mtaka ja mfunguni. That's what you've heard at least, Ndu.
Ukitaka sharti?
Sisha. Ukitaka shati inama. Sawa. Let's leave it at that. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. Senior advocate, mediation. We have had conversations here, on alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. Very many of them. We talk about mediation, we talk about arbitration, we talk about all this. What is mediation, and how is it different from the others?
Mediation is an alternative dispute resolution process. In fact, the word mediation means assisted negotiation. Among those that you have just mentioned, in alternative dispute resolution systems, we have negotiation, followed by mediation, followed by conciliation, followed by Medi-Up, where you do mediation and follow it with arbitration, followed by ABMED, followed by neutral evaluation, followed by adjudication, mini trial, arbitration, and then the extreme now is litigation. All those are alternative dispute resolution processes. Yep.
Hey.
But mediation itself appears to be the best because you allow parties to make their own decisions. All these other processes like arbitration, there's a third party who listens to you and then decides for you, makes a ruling, a judgment we call an award. The same thing with the litigation. Arbitration is a quasi-judicial process. In fact, we call arbitrators private judges because they listen to you, they examine evidence and make decisions. In mediation, the reason why mediation is powerful is because you empower parties to make their own decisions, and they tend to respect those decisions more than those decisions handed over by a third party who may not be in a position to understand the substratum of the dispute.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how is that different from negotiation?
Now, negotiation is where two parties engage directly with each other, trying to persuade each other. You give me something in exchange for something. When these negotiations fail, when lines of communication now are closed, a third party who is neutral comes in to assist the two parties who have been negotiating to open lines of communication and assist them to arrive at their own mutually acceptable solution. That's the difference.
Okay.
Yes.
And conciliation?
Conciliation is where a third party proposes a solution. You see, in mediation, a third party does not propose a solution. They assist you to come out with your own solution.
Okay.
But in conciliation, just the same thing Kofi Annan did when he came here in 2007. Kofi Annan did not mediate. What Kofi Annan did, he came with a solution. He said, well, to settle this post-election violence, I think these people require a coalition government. And so he came with that idea. He placed one group at Serena Hotel, the other one in State House. So for him, he was moving between them in what we call shuttle diplomacy, trying to sell to them his own idea. So he was proposing an idea that you can only settle this through a coalition government.
Okay.
If eventually he managed to convince the parties to buy into his idea, by the time you were seeing the two protagonists greeting each other at the Rambe House, Kofi Annan had succeeded in selling his idea to them. Yeah, exactly. That's what conciliation is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to hold on to conciliation for a minute.
Yes.
Because what we're essentially saying here is that mediation gives both parties an opportunity to speak their mind.
Yes.
The third party, however, does exist in mediation because that's the person who kind of, sews everything together. Is it not? The mediator.
The mediator, yes.
Now with the conciliation, the third party, it's their idea.
Yeah.
And but what is established is that there are two warring sides, isn't it, already?
Exactly.
And they've not been able to come up with an idea. So the conciliator comes in with an idea and brings them together.
Exactly. It is also, this third party is also neutral.
Okay.
The third party, the process is also voluntary. But the third party works very hard to convince the parties that the solution to their problem is this. So they propose a solution, and then they sell it to the parties, which is totally different from mediation, where you allow parties to come up with their own solution.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there any kind of egging on that happens by the mediator? Because we've heard, I think we had a mediation conversation many months ago.
Yes.
And there was a situation or scenario whereby the mediator, you're all sat in a room, but at some point one party will be asked to leave.
Yes.
And the mediator will make a few suggestions, or at least hear without fear or favor what this side is saying. So do they encourage a particular emotion or sentiment to come through in order for them to now bring it back later?
Yeah, I think sometimes people, not only the normal human being house, even lawyers sometimes confuse this thing, mediation. What do mediators do? Mediators do a lot. In the mediation process, what the mediator does is to listen first to the parties, do what we call active listening. Most people, when they are listened to psychologically, it's a form of healing. It's what we call catharsis. The people become cathartic. By listening to them narrate their conflict, you give them an opportunity to even cure themselves. So the mediator listens to the parties, identifies the issues of concern between the parties, then assists parties to generate options, and then assists them to evaluate those options and come up with solutions that benefit them. So a mediator does a lot in the system, only that mediators never give their own opinion. Mediators don't give suggestions unless people have asked for. You always allow the parties themselves. You assist them by, when people are angry, for example, and when people come to conflict resolution, they are not friends. That's one thing you must know. And therefore, when they talk, their conversations are full of negative connotations. So there are a number of things that a mediator does. One, you reframe those statements. You see, one person can make a very derogatory statement. Before the other one responds, you have reframed. Reframing means you detoxify. You remove blame, you remove toxins from the statement and put it in a more user-friendly to the way to the other party. So it prevents them from getting what we call a retaliatory cycle. Retaliatory cycle is a way we start wars, a way we make wars. So a person will make a statement which is a trigger. And before that other person has a perception of a threat, the mediator passes in between to reframe that statement. So the response from the other side will be less toxic, and therefore you are moving them towards agreement. So mediators work hard to move parties from a retaliatory cycle to a conciliatory cycle, and then towards their own solution. And there are so many techniques that mediators use to do that, to get people there. So that's why for a person to become a mediator, you need to undergo some proper training. So that apart from reading body language, you also know how to reframe statement, paraphrase statements, partialize, mirror, and do all other stuff to ensure that the conversation, you make people have a meaningful conversation that leads them to their own mutually acceptable solution.
I guess the biggest lesson is how to stay neutral.
Exactly.
Because you listen to them and be like, "Yeah, huyu jamaa, huyu amekosea, huyu mtu lakini." How do you train people to stay neutral, to remain neutral throughout? You are a human being. You'll find that when you are dealing with a person A, party A is, looking like they recognize your presence more. Party B is treating you like, Kwanza, you are just another, you're part of this whole mess. So you tend to lean to party A. You're like, this guy. How do you train people to remain that neutral?
The issues about neutrality is teaching people about perception. Usually, we look at things differently. For example, if I draw a W here, probably what you'll be seeing is an M yourself. She'll be seeing an E or a 3, depending on what section she is.
She's looking at. She'll see double V.
Yeah. So, all that, none of us here is stupid or crazy. Everybody is right from their own perspective. So what we teach people, first of all, is patience. Trying to understand that in any conflict situation, nobody is wrong. And then we also teach you what we call the conflict dynamics profile, to become conflict competent. People who are conflict competent usually are the people who know how to respond to conflict constructively. If you are conflict incompetent, you respond to conflict destructively. When you are conflict competent, you have conflict intelligence. So whenever something happens, your response is constructive, and therefore you reduce the adverse effects of conflict. This training we do also helps you to understand yourself. There are personalities and temperaments that we teach you about. Personality is always the dress we put on. I'll always behave in a way that pleases you. But temperament is what I'm made of, who I really am. So once you understand who you are yourself, yes, we have our own prejudices, but as a mediator, you are trained to have what we call a prejudice basket, where you close your prejudices and you treat people who are in front of you equally. That's why you cannot shed tears with both people when they are crying. You need to have a hard head, so that when people pour frustrations on you, you are the only person who is stationary. You normalize, validate the pain that people go through, but at the same time, you are assisting them, knowing that these tears that you are seeing have a psychotherapeutic effect in conflict resolution. In fact, they assist people to reduce their emotions so that they can be able to see their conflicts more clearly. So that's why a mediator requires proper training to be able to assist the parties resolve their disputes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of cases are we talking about here that would end up in mediation? Because one would assume, well, we have an issue, one party to the next, and we can just go mediate instead of going through litigation. What would warrant that mediation then is introduced?
As far as I'm concerned, in my 20 years of mediation practice, I know that all cases are mediatable. But there is something that happens in this country. People say you cannot mediate criminal matters.
Yes.
But if you say, I came today with a very nice book, and the topic here is mediating criminal matters. People are mediating criminal matters everywhere. Even our own constitution, if you look at Article 159, 2P, it recognizes 3 ways of resolving disputes. That is mediation, that's litigation, alternative dispute resolution, and traditional dispute resolution mechanisms. And we have had cases that have been mediated and accepted by the court. In fact, if you go to our case law, you will find a case known as Muhammad Abdu versus Republic. In this case, this was in Isiolo. Muhammad Abdu committed murder. He was arrested, and the police were planning to arraign him in court. The two communities sat together, and they said, we pay you 50 camels as blood money. And the people settled. In fact, the father saw an affidavit to the director of public prosecution saying they don't need to pursue this case in court. The director of public prosecution withdrew that case under Article 159 2B of the Constitution. And many other cases have taken place. There is a notion that we have, and I want to demystify it, our criminal justice system in this country talks about, we always believe that any offense committed is an offense against the state. And that's why any victim comes to court as a prosecution witness.
Yes.
We assume that once a victim has given evidence and they are discharged and the offender is sent to court, to jail, that's it.
The justice has been served.
No, justice has not been served on the victim. That's why I've always been encouraging people that we have a system we call restorative justice. That's victim-offender mediation. So that we can also give justice to the victim. Assume a case like rape, for example.
Yeah.
Somebody has been raped.
Yep.
The rapist has been arrested. They have been arraigned in court, sent to prison. The victim comes to court as a witness. Once she has given evidence, or he has given evidence, they are told they are discharged. We punish the offender. What happens to the victim? The victim may not have that process of healing, because that's very important for them. We have neglected the victim, who is the most important person in this matter.
When you say that, I think what is then introduced is the element of, well, this person has committed a heinous crime and then should be punished.
Exactly.
And without, where is the regard for their emotions? Because they did not think about that when they were committing the crime.
Exactly.
That's where the abhorrence would come from. That why are we thinking about that?
Let me now tell you the truth. We always believe in punishing the offenders.
Yes.
And that's it in Kenya.
Yeah.
And this is not even helping the rehabilitation process. In fact, that's why the prison systems have got challenges. In victim-offender mediation, what you do, you prepare the victim. And with their permission, you prepare the offender. And then you prepare a representative of the community. Then you assemble them in a place like this with the permission of the victim. If the offender is in a position to show some kind of remorse and agree to do something like community service, it begins the process of healing for the victim. The offender goes back to prison, they serve their sentence. When they come back, when they are released, they are able to be accepted back to society because the members of the community were involved in this process. You know the reason why people leave prisons, they go to the village and they are rejected because of stigma. Is because members of the community were not involved in this process.
The dispute was not resolved.
And the victim has not healed. That heinous crime is still in the mind of the victim and they are horrified. They are still traumatized. So victim-offender mediation assists a lot to create an environment where we rehabilitate the offender. The process of healing for the victim starts and the members of the community can accept the offender when they clear off their sentence. And it reduces in other jurisdictions, it reduces crime a lot.
I see.
Something that we need to look at from a different perspective. Not only punishment resolve this issue. Punishment only does not solve the process completely.
So you're advocating, if I get you right, for both things to happen.
Yes.
We can go through the litigation process in the criminal justice system, but at the same time, it's important to have the mediation process happening. Victim, community, and for the purpose of the victim.
Exactly, to serve the interests of the victim, who is usually forgotten in all this criminal justice system. Victims are forgotten. And these processes have worked in other jurisdictions. We have assisted them work in other jurisdictions in Africa in the first place. And
have they been properly adopted? Give us an example.
In Kenya here, we are still a long way to go. You know, we are very slow in adopting. Like mediation, that brings me to the station today. 80% of the Kenyans do not know this thing exists. You know, your TV stations are showing Vioja Mahakamani. So people know that when they have disputes, the best place to go is to go before a judge. That's why somebody can threaten you that I will sell my car and take you to court. We need to do a lot, especially using the press and you, the media, to spread this news. You know, even the Bible says, my people perish because of lack of knowledge. The Bible itself encourages us to resolve our disputes before referring them to the system. We have done very little to pass this message to the members of the community. People cannot even understand the legal system itself. It is expensive. They cannot afford a lawyer. It is traumatizing when you subject these people to things like cross-examination. There are better ways of resolving conflicts, and that is through mediation. The only thing is we have complicated it. We have made it. Umeingiza kizungu mingi. People now do not understand what mediation is, and we have also started bringing up other things that are not mediation. The best thing we can do, and I'm just passing this message to those mediators who are in this country, let us take our time, educate the public about mediation, so that even those people who are trained, they may get the business to do. People may not refer their cases to court. We have cases in the insurance industry, which can be mediated, in the manufacturing industry, which can be mediated, employer-employee disputes, which can be mediated, land matters that can be mediated, medical negligence disputes that can be mediated, disputes between employers and unions can be mediated. Mediation is everywhere if we use it well. In fact, some policies in other countries like America, you cannot approach the courts unless you have gone through mediation. In fact, you approach the court and you want to file your case, the court will tell you, have you attempted mediation and failed? Where is the certificate? Where is the report? Then your case can be filed. Until we get there, we have a serious backlog of cases in court. Our judicial officers are very few, they are overwhelmed, and therefore we are compromising the quality of justice in this country. When we have options that can address those issues, reduce the backlog of cases in court, and therefore allow our judges and magistrates to handle fewer cases and therefore improve their efficiency.
Let's take a break. That's a very good point. Yes. 29 minutes to 8. Our guest this morning for our Justice Thursday conversation is James Mangerere. He is a senior advocate of the High Court and president of the Mediation Training Institute, East Africa. He'll tell us more about the Mediation Training Institute and what they do and how long they've been here, who they're training, and how much money they charge for this and all those other issues. After this break, keep it here.
Thank you. This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day. Welcome to SpiceFM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever. The weather with SpiceFM.
It's a cloudy morning in Nairobi, 15 degrees. We'll see highs of 25 and highs of 25 in a sunny Nakuru, currently at 15. Sunny at 14 in Nyeri with highs of 24, and we'll see highs of 24 in a partly sunny Eldoret at 15. Mombasa at 24 is sunny, and Malindi at 27, sunny, going to highs of 30. It's 20 and sunny in Kisumu with highs of 29, and Kakamega will see highs of 29, currently sunny at 18. Kampala sunny at 22, we'll see highs of 28, while at 22 Dar es Salaam we'll see highs of 31. 9 degrees and clear in Johannesburg, stepping into winter with highs of 20, and Johannesburg at 20, Mogadishu at 28 is sunny with highs of 31. Addis Ababa at 16 is sunny, going to highs of 27. Lagos this morning, cloudy at 27 with highs of 33, and we'll see highs of 34 in a mostly clear Kinshasa at 23.
Some very nice, mature music.
You really take me back to my days, and I can just feel young again and enjoy the vibes.
Spice.
I'm a good listener of SpiceFM.
You play the best music.
This is 94.4 Spice FM.
All right, let's take a look at what's going on our streets this morning as we're getting into traffic hour. Proper, as it were. It's quite busy coming off of North Airport Road, going into the direction of Outer Ring. And also coming in from the Eastern Bypass, traffic for folks who are trying to get onto Outer Ring. That looks just a bit busy. Kangunda Road, very busy as you get towards Outer Ring today. And coming in from Garden City on the Thika Super Highway, traffic is bumper to bumper through towards Pangani. And we're seeing this perennial traffic right around Globe Cinema, and that continues for some time. Limuru Road, busy. Westlands, busy as usual. Let's take a quick look at what's coming off of James Gishuru, and that traffic will spill over towards the Red Hill Link Road on Wayaki Way. But I think after that, we should be fine. We're going to keep an eye on all of this. Let's talk on SpiceFM, KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, so I'm sure everybody has had mediation in one way or another. Alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. We've talked about it very many times on Justice Thursdays. Today we are focusing on mediation and getting to understand deeper, and who better from than the president of the Mediation Training Institute, East Africa, James Mangerere, who's here with us, taking us through this mediation. I just want to ask you as we head into this next one, is a marriage counselor a mediator?
No. They do counseling. Counseling and mediation are two different things. Completely.
Okay.
Yes.
It's because you said a mediator is also this person who listens to the warring parties, listens to them, and eggs them towards their own solution.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So as you're listening to the parties and you're egging them to your own solution, isn't that what marriage counselors do?
Counselors listen so that they can assist parties to heal. It's what we call listening the soul to existence. Mediators go a step further to help people resolve their disputes. Counselors can listen to you, waiting for you to heal. Mediators go ahead and assist you to resolve your dispute so that you can come up with your own practical, mutually acceptable solution that works for both of you. So you come up with a win-win solution. It's a self-determinative process where parties make their own decisions, but a third party has to assist them to do so.
Okay.
Yes.
Would mediation then come in where the state is involved? And these are cases where the state is prosecuting an individual or prosecuting an entity. The state versus where the office of the DPP, for example, is involved. Would mediation come in as an option here?
Yes, of course. You know, even the previous doctors' union dispute in 2017 was resolved through the process of mediation. I have also assisted resolve disputes that involve these state agencies. Even investor-state disputes, people coming from outside to invest in this country, most of them do not have the time to go to court. They don't want to subject themselves to the adversarial legal system. So they prefer having their matters mediated because business people themselves, they want to resolve their disputes and maintain their relationships. If you go to court, one side will win, another one will lose, and that relationship will be destroyed. So even state agencies, private institutions, international organizations, they are all, mediation is available to them as a choice, as an alternative way of resolving conflict rather than subjecting themselves to the court process. Yes.
That's for civil cases. How about the criminal cases? Where the director of public prosecutions is involved, like you said, in the case that you've just given us, the state versus so-and-so.
I have mediated a criminal matter. And it was, most of these matters are confidential. There's an element of confidentiality. I've mediated so many of them, so long as parties were available and ready to do what? To resolve. In fact, some people even say you cannot mediate the gender-based violence disputes. But things like domestic violence, people mediate them every now and then. Sometimes you go before the courts. The courts will make a decision. For example, a husband and wife have differed. The husband is working as a watchman or a guard somewhere. They are being paid 10,000 shillings. The court makes a decision to attach that salary so that can take care of the children and the wife. The guy says, you have attached everything. Why am I working? They resign and they go back to the village. The wife and children are forced to follow the husband to the village to go and do the farming to get something to eat. So what has really the court done? They have made a decision that is not implementable. If you brought these people before the mediator, a mediator will find a win-win solution, a decision that comes from them. We are too slow to accept that. We not always get resolutions through fights. We believe that we must put up a fight before we get what we want. And that is something that's been ingrained in us since the colonial time. The Musungu told us that if you want something, you have to fight for it. That's why you see a man in the village saying, I'll sell my cow and take you to court. And when they sell their cow, that's not even sufficient to pay the lawyer and anything. And then in the course of that trial, they get frustrated. And what I always tell people is that nobody wins a court case. And I can prove that.
Nobody wins a court case?
Yes. I have been in court for all those years, and I've seen people go to court. I can give you a very simple example right now. Me and you are neighbors. So you move my land in 5 inches of my piece of land. So I'll take you take me to court. You file a suit, you hire a lawyer, take me to court. So you pay your lawyer. Probably the value of that piece of land, those 5 inches, is about, let's say, 50,000. You have taken me to court. You pay your lawyer. The case takes 2-3 years to resolve because of a number of applications in court. Eventually, you win the case because the judge will say, take that piece of land back to where it was. And then they will award you costs. By that time, the lawyer has spent a lot of money in doing your case. They will give you a fee note, which will consume everything that you have paid. Not only have you spent your money, you have spent your time. There's a lot of trauma in the court system. The vagaries of the court system are not friendly. What about if you call somebody, a third party, and told them, this gentleman has just moved my piece of land. Can we sit down and then we see how we can resolve? A third party comes in and tells you, let's look at the history. Where was your land previously? What is he doing right now at this particular point? Why don't you people agree, get the land back and maintain a good relationship? Because when you have a good relationship, this and that will happen. And they say, let's greet each other. These people will greet each other and their children meet together and that relationship can be destroyed. So, if you went to court, you spend that money and you got a judgment. Did you really win that case?
No, you didn't.
So, it's just simple.
Your
but
enemies.
Let me tell you the problem with going through the courts. You destroy your relationship. You spend money. It's traumatizing. When you go through mediation, first, it's private and confidential because nobody will know what's happening. Number 2, it saves costs. Number 3, it takes less time. Number 4, it preserves the relationship. There are so many advantages that you have in mediation than resorting either to arbitration or the court system. And the sooner the Kenyans realize this, the better for them. We'll have less cases in court. Relationship will be improved. Look at example, succession matters in court. The judge makes a decision that this and that will get the property according to their father's will. They tell the judge, that's what you have just said, but we have another way of doing it at home. When they get at home, each one of them carries a weapon. And they say, this is where the land will be. Forget about what the judge said. So instead of the judge taking people that direction, in fact, the courts these days are encouraging people to go into mediation. Because decisions made in mediation are easy to implement. Because people tend to respect decisions they have made than decisions that have been handed down by a third party who may not understand the culture, the substratum of the dispute. The earlier we realize about this, the better. And I'm asking, I don't know what I'll do to ensure to educate Kenyans that mediation is a better option.
James.
The media will help me, everybody else. We will save Kenyans not only money, but the kind of trauma they go through in trying to resolve their disputes. And we have qualified people in this country who are mediators who can help us manage that and reduce the backlog of cases. You know, judges and magistrates are also human beings. When they go home in the evening, they want to watch TV and they play with their children. Why should they carry your file home to go and do your own case? Let's give them easy time. There are cases that mediators can do that should never find their way to court. So Kenyans, let's wake up and smell the coffee.
Our constitution, Kenyans gave themselves a constitution.
Yes.
And Kenyans recognized that there are many ways of resolving disputes. And that's why you even quoted the constitution. You've said we can go to court. We can look at alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. We can go into traditional dispute resolution mechanisms, right? And that's where dispute resolution comes in and mediation. The people who are involved in everyday society, people who are involved in resolving disputes are number 1, wazes in the village. Can call them nyumba kumi elders and such. Chief is resolving very many disputes. OCS is resolving very many disputes. You've trained many people. Have you trained any of these people? Have you trained police officers, administration officers, chiefs, assistant county commissioners and such, or even village elders on mediation, on how to understand those things that you're saying? Read body language, stay calm, de-escalate situations, urge people towards coming up with their own solution.
Exactly. In the year 2008, immediately after the post-election violence, we had an MOU with the National Legal Aid and the European Union. And I trained Council of Elders. I went to Kisumu. I trained the Luya, Kisi elders. I was at the Gadamene Hotel in Meru, where I trained the Meru, Empu, Isiolo, Kikuyu leaders. I went to Voi. I trained some leaders there. So, but this was a limited number because it was a total of 75 mediators all over the country. So I expected, these people have done a lot of work in resolving conflicts within the community. I expected that the government will take over and sponsor of assist these parties to get trained, because community mediators are people who are trained to diffuse tension in the community. Most disputes are resolved at the community level because that process of community mediation is culturally sensitive. We take our culture into account when we're resolving disputes. So I did that. I have also worked with other organizations. I've gone to Samburu. I've trained the Masai Morans over there and the local elders. I have been to Bungoma, I've been to Kilifi. I've gone to areas at the border, even outside this country, trying to train people in what we call village mediation, how they can handle land disputes, family disputes at the village level for people who cannot be able to afford this. So I'm doing my best, but I need help. I'm just a drop in the ocean. I need people, I need organizations to come in. Let's work together and promote mediation in this country. Our chiefs, I've trained a number of chiefs in community mediation. A number of people, police officers. I've also trained other professionals because there are some cases that are technical. For example, if you are doing a construction dispute, you may require an engineer who understands who are subject matter expertise in that field. If you are doing a medical negligence dispute, you need a doctor who understands that technicality of those areas. So I'm trying my best to train doctors, engineers, human resource managers, so that these people, whenever I have a case, I'm a lawyer and I may not understand the technical part of it, I can bring this person as a co-mediator to assist me in understanding the technical issues in that particular area.
Okay.
We have a long way to go.
The Chief Justice, Martha Koome, has the vision, the social transformation through access to justice.
Yes.
And one of the things that she's pushing, and she's said the judiciary is now focusing on, is looking at the alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. That's why court-mandated mediation is actually now a big thing.
Yes.
The alternative justice system, courts have been established to help in this. Have mediators and mediation being incorporated into this system such that there is funding for an institution such as yours to train mediators, to have more mediators coming in. We have a judiciary fund. It's not well resourced, but it has 13 billion shillings and counting. Have you had conversations with the judiciary where they say we can actually allocate money towards increasing the number of trained mediators in our community?
You see, first of all, I'd like to commend the judiciary, because if you look at back in 2015, under Justice Tunga, we started the court annex mediation program, pilot program at Milimani Commercial Court. We started with the commercial and the family division. And it was very successful, and that's why the courts rolled it down into 13 high courts initially. I'm sure most of the high courts now in the country have got those. We have new rules that came up recently. That's Legal Notes number 145 of 2022 that came in to improve the way we operate in mediation. Now, I will always encourage our courts, especially the court annex mediation, the court annex mediation committee. You know, when you have started something like mediation, I think it is important that we make it a success first. Still, it's work in progress. We need to ensure that our courts improve the efficiency of managing court annex mediation in our courts. We train and look at the quality of the mediators that we bring in the country. I've seen cases of countries like Nigeria and other countries where they really mind about the quality of the mediators they have in the field, because if you have a mediator who's not properly trained, the first instance they have with parties will have a very bad experience, and this will give mediation a bad name. So what we are working on is a mediation bill. We want to have a mediation act in Parliament. The same thing like the Arbitration Act, because mediation is not a small sister to arbitration. Mediation is a discipline of its own. We're working on a draft bill with different stakeholders. This bill has come back to Parliament 2-3 times, and it's been thrown out because it was badly done. We hope this time round the bill that we present before Parliament will pass, because once we have a bill, we can then be able to control this. But in the courts itself, I request those people, those policy makers, that let's get to the level of where other countries are in mediation. Let us promote mediation by ensuring that, first of all, we maintain the quality of standards of mediators. We improve the way we operate mediation in a court next mediation program. In fact, what I didn't tell you is that I'm a board member, I'm a director of the International Mediation Institute, Netherlands. and we mind a lot about standards of practice. So I would like us, because I'm the only African director who is there, and I come from Kenya. In fact, Kenyans, we should be a role model in this field, where quality, people should be looking at quality first. So our courts, let's mind about quality, and also let's improve the efficiency of how we operate court annexed mediation. It needs to grow. We have not, sorry, we have not reached. You know, there's something wrong if you can do something and leave it at that particular point, move to another, before you perfect what we already have. Court annexed mediation should be improved, perfected. We get the good quality of mediators in the field so that we can offer quality service to the public. I also encourage private mediation. Now the new rules allow for people to do private mediation. And if there's an agreement, that agreement can be taken to court, it can be converted into a court judgment, which is a very good thing. But be that as it may, we need first of all to improve the quality of court annexed mediation programs that we have.
And legislation will go.
And legislation will really help us a great deal, so that we need to work out a bill that will address issues to do with the quality and management of quality and the standards of practice.
How do
and then the other thing, sorry, we have a Singapore International Mediation Convention. Kenya has not signed. Uganda signed and ratified that Singapore International Mediation Convention, such that if there are foreigners, especially who have cases in this country, and there is a mediation agreement, can it be implemented outside our jurisdiction? The answer is no, because we have not ratified the Singapore International Mediation Convention. So Uganda has done it. I wonder what we are waiting for, and yet we are qualified mediators in this country who can assist the Attorney General and the government in having this thing placed before us. We talk about it, we discuss about it, sign it, ratify it, so that then international investors can have the confidence of investing in our country, because disputes that arise can be resolved, and those agreements that I made can be implemented outside our jurisdiction. So we have a lot of work to do as mediators in this country, and I will ask the private mediators and the judiciary to work in the collaboration. We are all moving the same direction. We want to promote mediation in this country. Why don't we work together to promote that mediation together? Yes, like other countries have done in some parts of Africa.
If we go to the actual cases themselves, how do you then decide that we're going to actually take this to mediation? Let's say that two parties have already started to engage in the via litigation, and they've said, well, you know what, this is an option for us to take this through mediation. What's the process? How do you then say, okay, we've decided and we're going to go to mediation? Do you look for a mediator? Do you speak to counsel? How does it actually happen?
Well, if a case has been filed in court, we have what we call a screening process. Cases are usually screened by the mediation registrar, debit registrar. They are screened, and they have a criteria of screening those cases. Once a case has been identified as being suitable for mediation, and the criteria is they look at the age of the case, whether the case has got pure points of law, that case cannot be referred to mediation, because not all mediators are lawyers. If there is a case that affects public policy, that case cannot be referred to mediation. But if a case is in such a way that it benefits people generally, it can be referred to mediation. Once that screening has been done, the mediation registrar notifies the parties that your case has been identified for mediation, and they ask the parties or their lawyers to file what we call a case summary. Then a mediator is appointed from the list of accredited mediators, and the case is given to a mediator to do for 60 days. Now, parties themselves have the leeway, the discretion to tell the court that we want our case to be done what? To be taken to mediation. And the court will accept, because that's within the laws. And the parties themselves can choose their own mediator from the list of the mediators that are provided for in court, and they can have their matter referred to court. Now, that does not mean that all cases must go to court for them to be mediated. You can still mediate your dispute before you file in court. And the court allows you, if the case has been mediated by a qualified mediator, you can take that agreement before the court. The court will adopt it and convert it into a decree or a judgment of the court. So I'm sure if Kenyans knew this, first, there will be nobody rushing to court. They will first of all want to try mediation. And if by any chance your case is in court, you can still apply to have your case referred to mediation before a mediator of your own choice.
Who certifies mediators in Kenya?
Now, that's also another very interesting thing. For those ones who work in court, specifically, there's a mediation accreditation committee that sets the standards and also interviews and certified mediators. But for private mediators, for example, I want to talk about mediators, Kenyan mediators trained by MTI, Mediation Training Institute International. Mediation Training Institute International has been certified, accredited by a number of international bodies. We have the International Mediation Institute, Netherlands. So our mediators usually apply, and they are qualified as qualified mediators or IMI. They can use their logo. And once you have practiced for a year and pass, you have done 200 hours of mediation, then you can apply. MTI is a qualifying assessment program for the International Mediation Institute. We can assess you and certify you and send your name to IMI for certification. We are also certified by the Singapore International Mediation Institute, NISIMI. So all our mediators that are trained get that certification. We are also recognized by the International Academy of Mediators, where I sit as a governor in the United States. I sit as a governor in the International Academy of Mediators, who have recognized MTI and its mediators. You are also certified by MTI East Africa and MTI Africa, according to their credentialing program. We have standards of the framework of certification that we have.
Is there a need to have a single qualifying authority in Kenya to say that wherever you've gone to study, the thing you were talking about, standardization,
yes.
You can study at MTI or any other institute, but in the end, you shall sit a common exam, and there's one entity that gives you proper accreditation as a mediator.
That is the purpose of the PIL that I'm telling you.
Okay.
This PIL will set up those structures which you do not have right now. These days, anybody can train you and give you a certificate, and you'll approach the courts and they'll interview you and accredit you. That itself has messed the standards of practice in this country, because everybody is a trainer. They come in the field, they tell you, sit down. This guy is asking you 20,000, I'm asking you 6,000, sit in, I teach you. People don't really realize what they are receiving. Is the person who is training you, what mediations have they done? What experience do they have? What's the quality of their program? Where is the certification going to take you? Because our mediators can practice in Nairobi, they can cross over to Europe and practice, they can go to America, to Australia and Canada, and their certification can be recognized because of this peer review and certification that we have with other international organizations. And we have done our best to customize our training to the African setting. Let me tell you, conflict is not the same thing. What is conflict in America may not be conflict over here. We have our training text in customizes in conjunction with our culture. We look at conflict from our cultural lenses. So we train people, like now in America or in Europe, greeting somebody with both arms, people would think it's a useless thing. But you remember when you were a child, what you told you greet hurdles with both arms, isn't it?
Yes.
As a sign of respect.
Yeah.
If you see a mediator doing it in Kenya, it's because they have been trained in such a way that our training reflects our cultural context. So we don't look at the videos that our friends from the West have role played and then customize that. We have written books. Like myself, I've written a number of books. Some of them are on the texts, on the textbook center, on the bookshops. The books I've written, I've tried my best to look at the standards of practice worldwide and customize them using our African context. So if you read our book, it's easier to understand because it reflects our cultural context. And that's the difference. Yeah.
People who are listening and they'd like to reach out to you, for training, for matters, advice on mediation.
Yes.
How would they do that?
Well, this is our website. Our website is www.mtieastafrica.org. If you go to that website, you'll get a lot of information about our training, our certification, our mentorship program. We also have an institution known as the Institute of Chartered Mediators and Conciliators, which is our membership body. It's a credentializing body. Those mediators who have been trained, they are encouraged to be members in that institute. They are recognized worldwide. We have members from Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, DRC, Congo, Southern Sudan. We are trying to work together to harmonize our practice and also create an environment where you can get your business. So by being a member of the Institute of Chartered Mediators and Conciliators, you get a place where you can meet other mediators, peer review, get business and grow your mediation practice. Okay. That's what we do.
So the message here this morning is, sio kila kitu ni polisi.
Yes.
No, you can actually have a conversation among you two and come up with a solution as you two parties in dispute. And that's where mediation comes in. James Mangerere, Senior Advocate of the High Court of Kenya and President of the Mediation Training Institute of East Africa, has been our guest, teaching us about the importance of mediation and what makes a case appropriate for mediation. 8 a.m. Keep it here for more.
Spice up your life.
It's now 8 a.m. Get effective relief from strong pain with Panadol Extra. Panadol. Relief starts here.
This is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. Political, religious leaders as well as other invited stakeholders have gathered at Safari Park Hotel for the National Prayer Breakfast meeting. Speaking during his opening remarks, Speaker of the Senate Amason Kingi said that prayer kept the country strong even as we faced the floods that claimed hundreds of lives as well as lost General Fred Ogola and other military officials. President William Ruto and his Deputy Rigathi Gachagua have arrived at the meeting accompanied by their spouses.
Just a month ago, we lost nearly 300 people as a result of the phenomenal floods that swept through our country. The cost of the devastation has been estimated at tens of billions of shillings. As we went through our week of national mourning in honor of fellow Kenyans killed by the floods, we learned to appreciate our absolute dependence on God in the face of such tragic outcomes that lay bare our traits as humans. The tragic loss of the Chief of the Kenya Defence Force, General Francis Ogola, and team of military officers in a helicopter crash around the same time capped a particularly dark episode in the history of this country. I dare add that it took our faith in God to walk through this very dark tunnel.
Kenya's vaccine shortage persists, with Nairobi County being the latest to join the 10 counties that have been missing vital vaccines. Nairobi Chief Officer for Health, Tom Nyakaba, says the county is missing 4 immunization vaccines, further adding that despite limited supplies of essential vaccines, efforts to continue immunization services persist.
Hasa kaunti ya Nairobi tumekosa vaccine 4 ambayo ni ya PCG, vaccine ya measles na ya polio. Katika kaunti yetu Nairobi. Na ile iko yenye ni stock ya kutoka hapo mbeleni, sasa iko less than 50% ya zile facilities zetu zinazo offer hiyo service. Lazima ieleweke pia kuwa kaunti ya Nairobi tuko na facilities zaidi ya 500.
In Kisii County, medics say that they are missing 2 vaccines.
We have vaccines, not all of them. There are some vaccines which are available in small doses, and there's one which is missing totally. So the one which is missing totally is the rotavirus vaccine, the one which prevents diarrhea or diseases in children under 1 year.
Zenye hatuna BCG, yenye tunaita against the tuberculosis disease, hiyo yenye watoto wanapewa wakishazaliwa at birth. Alafu yenye pia hatuna ni oral vaccine, yenye pia mtoto anapewa wakishazaliwa.
Medical experts have raised concern that if the trend continues, hospitals will soon be burdened with children suffering from diseases as a result of not being vaccinated.
Sasa of course kama watoto watakuwa wanakosa vichanjo, kutakuwa na milipuko ya magonjwa, na hayo sasa yatasababisha madhara mengine. Tutakuwa tunaona watoto wengi wanakuja hospitali, mahospitali yetu yataanza kujaa.
This event comes as the Ministry of Health says that they've released 250 million shillings, which will be used to purchase vaccines, which are expected to arrive into the country by next week. Police have recovered 6 guns in separate operations in Meru, Nairobi and Laikipia counties. The weapons include 2 G3 rifles, 2 Cabin AK-47 rifles, 1 AK-47 rifle and a mini Beretta. The team also recovered 100 bullets in the operation that started on Sunday. The body of Kenyan climber Cheriot Kirui, who died while attempting to summit Mount Everest without oxygen, will remain on the world's highest mountain, according to his family, putting an end to speculation about whether his remains would be returned home. According to a statement shared by his close friend James Muga, his family did not want to risk anyone's life by attempting to retrieve his body. The family intends to hold a memorial service in Nairobi and Chepterit village, with details to be announced soon. And finally, over 50 people who were swept away by the recent floods are still missing as the government started closing down camps hosting victims of the environmental disaster. With close to 200 camps still active, the government said that it was time affected families who have been living in schools and churches moved back to their homes. This came as the government announced plans to buy land for the Mai Mahiu victims who've been camping at a church and a private institution since the tragedy occurred. That's the Newswire. I'm La Ubaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right, quite busy on Kiambu Road this morning, and we're looking at that coming through towards Muthaiga Square. And on the Thika Superhighway, traffic is trickling in all the way from Garden City around that area. Before that, we're not going to have too much of an issue. Kangunda Road, busy from very early, and that's touching then on Outer Ring. The CBD is probably where the most action is happening right about now. Wayaki Way, busy then, in and outbound, interestingly enough, and as well as on Gong Road. Naivasha Road is busy. It's going to touch on Gong Road for a while, and then coming in from Langata Road through towards the city, there is traffic. Then some of that's going to go through towards Raila Odinga Way, the rest onto Uhuru Highway. So looking at that, and we are in traffic hour. Let's see what happens as we go through it. The Eastern Bypass, we've got to take a look at that. Not too heavy, but then there's some movement then as you approach Outer Ring at that junction, and then looping through towards North Airport Road. Let's talk, see what happens as we go through it. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Lafiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
7 minutes after 8. How are you doing? Welcome to the third hour of the Situation Room. It's Thursday, the 30th of May, 2024. One more day, and then we get to June. And then December.
You start singing Christmas carols.
Like that. Kerry reminds you that it's important for you to know that the law now requires that you generate tax invoices and you electronically transmit them to Kerry with every invoice that you issue, okay? So we had the ETR. The ETR before was this gadget, you generate an invoice, it stays there. So if Kerry ever came to check, they would check and they'd go through the ETR. Then they said, okay, this thing needs to transmit its information to Kerry, converted it to Teams, made us buy new gadgets, then they said, actually, we can also now make it available online. eTeams comes in, all right? And now eTeams is where you can go to eteams.kra.go.ke, or you can access it through the eCitizen platform, ecitizen.kra.go.ke, or on USSD code from your mobile device, *222#. Register for eTeams, and then every time you're invoicing, you simply generate an eTeams invoice, and then you share it with the entity that you are billing. That's what you're required to do. It's simple. Kerry says it's as simple as 222, and they're still working on it, on improving it. Yesterday we had this expert from the Kerry office, the thing particularly for farmers. So how can we simplify this thing for farmers? Okay, you are a dairy farmer. You're supplying milk to the local cooperative, and then you're billing the cooperative. So do you now keep generating at Ngobi Shupabidi Asubui eTeams? Sanane eTeams.
Received money.
Jioni eTeams. Yeah? Then how many eTeams invoices actually is this cooperative going to have to deal with? How many invoices is it looking at? how do they simplify that? They're working on something to say, how can we make maybe a back invoicing, a reverse invoicing, where then the cooperative is actually the one that's generating invoices on behalf of its members. Something like that. They'll think about it, they'll tell us. Our next conversation is going to be about tax and about revenue collection and about expenditure and about borrowing and not paying. Kama umechukua pesa ya mtu usilipe. Jimmy Wanjege is a businessman, he's a politician, he's the party leader of Safina. He's our guest. Jimmy, good morning.
Good morning, Eric. Good to see you.
Welcome back.
It's good to be back.
Karibu.
It's been a few months.
It has.
It has.
Yeah. The year has gone fast.
Kabisa.
End of May already. It's gone very fast.
You don't have another big engagement today? No suit?
No. In fact, I saw we have the National Prayer Breakfast today.
Yeah, where the atheists will be attending. But anyway.
We should all be attending. Well, I think we should pray for our nation wherever we are.
Atheists have been invited.
Atheists have been invited to the prayer breakfast.
Oh, even atheists.
And the president of the Atheist Society
They're
is
part
there.
of our society. Oh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So the atheist is there at the prayer breakfast.
I
don't know, praying
why would he attend?
You know, he's observing.
Let's see how the other side does this.
Maybe we can take 1 or 2 lessons here on how not to pray. Something. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
City sends his greetings. He's working remotely. But he left me the day's proverb. And the proverbs this week are from Zimbabwe. What's the capital of Zimbabwe?
Harare.
Okay.
Have you been there?
No, I haven't.
Nice place.
It is,
Wider streets than Nairobi.
Yeah.
They built well. They built well.
Beautiful
Lovely.
city.
Yeah, beautiful.
I've seen
place.
photos and videos.
Beautiful country.
Very good. The proverb is a direct translation. I keep saying this. This one, it just sounds like a direct translation from their language into English. So now you listen to it, directly translate it to Kikuyu and Kiswahili, and then give us your interpretation. Okay? What is impossible is impossible. You cannot remove pregnancy by coughing.
Let that world.
The die is cast. The die is cast.
You cannot remove pregnancy by coughing.
That's a good one.
What do you think they're saying?
That's a good one. I think I said the word, the die is cast. What's done is done.
What's done is done.
What's done is done. Are we in that situation in Kenya?
Are we?
You tell me.
Yeah. You were born a Kenyan, you were born a Kenyan. What's done is done.
Yes.
You cannot change this destiny.
No, you cannot.
Right?
You cannot.
Okay. A lot's happening now. We're in the budget making, at the peak of a budget making cycle. It starts as soon as the budget starts getting implemented. We start making the next one. We get now to this point where we have looked at the budget policy statement. Parliament has said, okay, you can go and prepare your budget and you can spend how you want to spend, how you've told us you'd like to spend. The National Treasury has taken estimates to Parliament. They are looking at the line by line item. So atumesema rigiji tutoe 880 million shillings kwa pesa yake. Okay, tutapeleka wapi? Kupanda miti. Okay. And then there is the finance bill that's now also in Parliament. So this 3.9 trillion shillings that you are proposing to spend, where are you going to get it from? And the finance bill is talking about that. The tax measures that will raise the ordinary revenue for government. There's a lot of conversation about the various elements of the tax measure. But now let's talk about it from the top, looking at all these things. What do you read in the current budget process, the proposals for the 2024-2025 expenditures and revenues?
Now, I wish we had all cited, as per our constitution, the estimates of revenue and expenditure. We hear it's in a committee of Parliament. I don't think the public has seen it yet. We don't know what this budget is about. It's supposed to come out of the appropriations bill of those estimates. What I'm seeing is debate on the finance bill. The finance bill is not part of the budget. It's just a revenue-raising measure of the budget. And the finance bill is even come for public participation. Before we have approved what that money that is raised is going to. Now, if you look at the sequence, that's the sequence in law because it is clearly stated in law. You publish the revenue and expenditure estimates. All right? It goes to the committee. The committee thereafter brings it for public participation. Then it goes back to Parliament. Have we seen it?
What?
That is now the estimates of revenue and expenditure. That is now what forms the appropriations bill, which is the budget. Right? In other words, we are raising money in the finance bill to finance what?
The budget.
It has not been approved. Have you seen it?
No.
So why are we debating revenue raising measures before we know what that revenue is going to?
You always like raising these technical issues and arguments here. What is your argument here? I'm not getting.
The argument is sequence. It's simply this, Eric.
Yes.
It's a sequence.
Okay.
In other words, how do you go and build? How do you start? Let's say you want to build a house.
Yeah.
Do you start with the design or do you start with the cost?
Both.
No. You do the design.
You do the design.
Then you do the costing. Then you know where to raise the money from.
Based on how you want to
on how you want to build your house.
Right.
Now here we started with the cost before we know what house we are building.
No.
How does that work?
No, Jimmy.
Yes.
We started with the budget policy statement. The budget policy statement gives the overall strategy for expenditure for the next year. Okay? And not just expenditure, but for the government programs. So we want to focus on the better economic transformation agenda. And we want to look at health. We want to look at housing. We want to look at supporting MSMEs. We want to look at the digital superhighway. We want to look at all these things. We want to look at education. How do we improve education? These are the areas of focus in the next financial year. And with that, we estimate that, we'd like to put in X amount of money into this particular sector, X into this particular sector. In total, it comes to 3.9 trillion shillings. So this is the focus that we are proposing as government to do in the next financial year. It goes to Parliament. It went to Parliament. It's supposed to go into Parliament by February. It went to Parliament. Parliament looked at it. The Budget Committee of Parliament. They brought a report to Parliament and said, we have looked at what the National Treasury is proposing to do for the next financial year. We agree and disagree on a couple of issues. Overall, we agree. However, with some riders, and the riders contained were, you want to spend 3.9 trillion shillings and you want the deficit to only remain at X amount. That means that your revenues are going to be X. We look at this proposed revenue, it is lower than the previous actuals, and we have a concern with that. However, you come and tell us how you're going to raise, but we approve. So Parliament approved, allowed government to spend 3.9 trillion shillings in the next year on these key areas and in these key projects overall. With that, the National Treasury then came to Parliament with two documents, the estimates. The breakdown of the 3.9 trillion shillings, where we are going to spend it, which is now where it's with the departmental committees. Education are looking at what's going to them. Health are looking at what's going to them. And roads are looking at what's going to them. This is now before the committees of Parliament, which is taking in views from stakeholders, public participation. There's a finance bill, revenue raising proposals, which is also before a departmental committee on finance. It's also going through public participation. So the process is going as you expect it to go.
Okay. Eric, you are aiding and abetting the delinquents of our laws.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. This is what has been practiced, and this is what we are saying is not the laws of Kenya. And this is where abuse of our financial laws have come. Where is the budget policy statement made law? Does it become law?
No, it doesn't.
Right. So let's talk about the law. What is the budget in law? It is called the appropriation bill. The appropriation bill is the one that is signed by the president. And the appropriation bill is two things. One, the estimate of revenues how much money do you need for the budget? And where are you getting it from? And expenditure, what are you spending it on? Right? They like to call it one bill, but it's actually two. Because it's also further divided between development and recurrent expenditure in both revenue and expenditure. That is what is assented to by the president.
Two laws are assented to by the president.
Right?
One
it's called the
Act,
Appropriations Bill.
and the other one is a finance
It's called the Appropriations Bill. When he assents to it, it becomes the Appropriations Act. Right? That is, in summation, the budget of the Republic of Kenya, according to our constitution.
Okay.
So we must first pass the appropriation. And to pass the appropriation bill, it needs public participation, like all our laws. When we have had public participation and the bill is passed, it becomes an act, then you can start talking about the revenue-raising measures. Because you may find we say in public participation, we don't want any more houses built. It may be in the budget policy statement, but it does not mean that it will pass the appropriations. So why do you then bring a housing levy in the finance bill, revenue-raising measure? It's a sequence that is very well tabulated in our constitution.
How far
and
apart?
our Public Finance Management Act.
How far
and
apart
you shall see, this is one of the things that was done last year, all right? And they hurriedly, when the finance bill was challenged, hurriedly went to challenge it, and they were shown what they had not done, and they've done it again this year. That's why I think you've heard Omtata has gone to court.
Okay.
Mheshimiwa Omtata has gone to court.
Yeah.
Is this sequence?
So are you
So
saying,
why are we public participating on a finance bill when we have not even passed what it is raising money for? It does not work like that.
So the current conversations that are being had about the finance bill and the issues that have been raised therein, you're saying that it is too early in the game to be having that conversation?
Absolutely. 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 And I mean, look at what we're debating here. You know, I watched Kwame Owino, the Institute of Economic Affairs, the other day on TV. And I hope I'm quoting him right, because I had not done the numbers. He said, this finance bill is proposing up to 200 tax propositions. 200. It's unprecedented in the Republic of Kenya. 200 tax propositions. All in indirect taxation. Right? Or mostly in indirect taxation. Now, 200 to finance what? Have they told you how many kilometers of road they are doing?
Unfortunately.
How many hospitals they are doing? Do you know?
No.
You've been talking about what they are cutting from people's offices. But do you know what they are spending this money on?
It's contained in those estimates.
Do you know how many jet trips are there? Have you approved them?
It's contained in the estimates.
No, where? Which estimates have you seen?
The ones that where the stories of what is being cut.
No, which estimates? Where have they published, first and foremost, the revenue estimates? Have you seen them? Expenditure is what you're talking about. Tell me where the revenue estimates are. They do not exist. And I have been saying here for almost 2 years, as long as you do not follow the laws of Kenya, you're in trouble. And that's why we are in trouble. And we'll continually be in trouble.
I can understand raising the alarm about that, Jimmy, but maybe we shed light on then, what is the importance of then making bare the revenue estimates? Why would you need to have that information in the public eye before you get on to the next step?
Because the revenue estimates tell you everything. They tell you exactly where we're going to raise money, what is our target, and then what it is for. Okay? It's to be spent on what. And I'll tell you, because they do not publish it, is where they've been hiding the element of debt, which I've been talking about.
Okay. So
over the last 12 years.
So if you were to make the revenue estimates available and very clear, then you would be able to then connect, because the things that have come out in the finance bill today is there's hue and cry, everybody shouting, motor vehicle tax, I don't know, eco tax, this, that, the other thing, the 200 that you mentioned. Why it would then make sense, from what I'm hearing you say, is that if the revenue estimates are being made bare, then in the finance bill where you hear all of these things that are being suggested in terms of what ought to be done to raise this money, then you'd be able to say, okay. It then makes sense why we're introducing a motor vehicle additional tax, because this money that is going to be spent on 52,000 kilometers of road needs to come from somewhere, and we've earmarked that this tax then will fund that action.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Now, I even want to just go to this current financial year. All right?
Yeah.
Just to tell you and show you the mischief. Okay? The revenue estimates, not only do you write about tax expectations from various sources, you talk about your loans. All right? So Parliament last year passed foreign and external loans, right, of 313 billion shillings, all right, for the expenditure called development. And if you look through the entire budget, that is all they passed. They passed no other loans other than that. 313 billion. At the time, said for a development expenditure of 870 billion. In other words, the balance was to come from our taxes, our tax revenue. Do you know, just 2 months after that, in what I like to call what is called the actual revenues and exchequer issues. Just 2 months. The Minister of Finance in August, mid-August, says that now, can you see the first column? Domestic borrowing approved by Parliament, right, is 686
billion.
Yes. It does not exist in any budget or appropriation bill. Does not exist. Does not exist at all. He even then further adjusts external loans and grants. Remember I said it was 313 billion to 570 billion.
And 20.
Okay, 520. No, sorry, no, in fact, I'm reading the wrong column. It's the full year. 688 domestic and 870 external loans and grants. In other words, he takes the entire development budget and says it's now going to be external loans and grants. What Parliament passed was 313. This is August, after the appropriation bill has been assented to by the President. Okay? Now, if you see the difference.
It's 557 billion.
Yes. Parliament never approved that.
So where
Parliament has not approved that.
So where does 557 billion shillings show up here?
Right. That is now the $1 million question, and we're going to answer it.
Okay, here we go.
Okay? Now, let's go. See, 570 is supposed to be 870, remember, was the total development budget. Okay?
In the budget.
In the budget.
In the 3.6 trillion shilling budget.
Yes.
And let's clarify why you're saying that, because on this sheet, it's called external loans and grants.
Yes.
But we know that the only place that you can use borrowed money for in this country is development. So that's why you're calling it development budget.
Yes.
Okay.
Because that's actually what was passed in Parliament. The appropriation says we are borrowing external loans and grants, right, of 313 billion for development of an 870 billion budget. Now here, the minister publishes 870 as external loans and grants, the entire development budget. Okay? The entire development budget. Now, if you just do a simple calculation of 688 domestic and 870, you're going to get a figure that is almost something like 1.6 trillion shillings of borrowing.
Yeah.
All right? Now, this is the actuals and revenues of 30th of April 2024, right? You can see that they revised them again. If you go to the second last column, they revised them again. Okay?
Yep.
851
to be the domestic borrowing,
and 849
to be the external loans.
To be the external loans. Right? That takes you to about 1.9 trillion.
Yep.
Okay? 1.8, 1.9 trillion. I'm saying Parliament only approved 300 billion.
Okay, Jimmy.
Now, the largest,
where was that
the largest, which content? In the budget, in the appropriations bill.
That's in the Appropriations,
in the Appropriations Act
of 2023.
Correct.
Do you have a copy of it?
Yes.
Okay. You'll
yes.
show us.
Yes, I've got it.
So the Appropriations Act of 2023 has a total development budget approved by Parliament
of 870,
and that becomes law
of 870
billion shillings going to development,
of which
in a 3.6 trillion budget.
No, Eric, for the clarity of everybody, let's go slow. The total development budget in the Appropriations Act of 2023-24, which is the budget, the total development budget is 870 billion. That is what was approved in June last year. Okay? June 2023, this year. Okay? Of which Parliament approved 313 billion
to be borrowed.
External loans and grants. The balance to 870 was to come from our tax revenue. All right?
Okay.
You are now seeing a graduation in the actuals, revenue and net exchequer issues from the Treasury, which is a gazette notice by the Minister, by the CS of Treasury, that is telling you that they have revised all their estimates of borrowing, and they're now going to borrow almost 1.9 trillion. Okay? Parliament only approved 300. So they are borrowing to the tune of over 1.5 trillion shillings that Parliament did not approve.
Are you saying that the Appropriations Act had already breached the law?
No.
Because the Public Finance Management Act says that you shall at least have a development budget of 30% of your entire budget. 870 billion shillings over 3.6 trillion shillings budget is less than 30%.
The tragedy of that number...
That Parliament had approved a development budget of about 24%?
Yes. Now, the tragedy is that it goes even lower. If you look at the column, right, which talks about development spending, NG development spending, what does it say full revised?
457 billion.
It's even less than the 870.
Yes, it is. It's about half.
Yes. So it's worse than 870.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
But that's at national government.
Yes.
Because if you look at it, then the national government budget is 3.3 trillion because there is 300 billion that has gone to counties.
Yes, but even then...
It's still lower than 30%.
Yes, national government development spending. That is what PFM talks about.
Yeah.
It's less than 24% that you're talking about.
Jimmy, the question here is that these numbers have been shared...
Publicly. Yes.
If there was something amiss, why would we have it in a public document? Or is this a situation whereby you're hiding something in plain sight?
Exactly, and we've been saying that for the last 2 years. It's there for all of us to see and read. And the greatest thing is that right now, I think pain has a way of making people want to understand a bit more. So people are reading. Your headlines are changing. People are focused. Mama Mboga today knows it's not just the price of the things they have in their hands. They want to understand why this is being caused. Okay? The economy has taken center stage. And I really want to say this today because I've seen what I believe are distractions with so-called UDA wars in the headlines. These are plain distractions. UDA can have all the fights in the world. The main issue today is hii mambo ya pesa. Our money, the finance bill, our budget, right? And the malfeasance that is going on. Because it's malfeasance. When you do not follow the law, it is malfeasance. You become a criminal. The criminality is so evident for everyone to see. It is here in plain sight.
Let's take a break. Jimmy Wanjege, presidential aspirant in 2022, hopefully in 2027.
Yes, absolutely.
Party leader Safina and businessman is our guest today. We are looking at the metrics: national debt, budget, revenue raising proposals. How do they all work together? 25 minutes to 9. We'll be back shortly. Keep it here.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start.
Bao! Yes. Oh, wow! Yes. Unaona hiyo bao? Bao gani? Kwani wewe unasherekea nini?
Bro, KRA ni kama wamenipea discount.
Discount? Wewe acha zako.
Cheki, nilikuwa na deni ya 148,396 shillings na KRA wameniambia nilipe 88,396 shillings bila penalties na interest. Na isitoshe, wamenikubalia nilipe polepole, bora tu nimalize deni by 30th June 2024.
Wewe acha zako. Hebu nione.
Ndio hii.
The Kenya Revenue Authority is forgiving all penalties and interest on outstanding tax debt for periods up to December 31st, 2022. Pay off your tax liability in easy installments by 30th June 2024 and watch your penalties and interest vanish from your profile. Visit the KRA website on guidelines on how to apply and apply now via iTax. Terms and conditions apply. Kenya Revenue Authority. Tulipe ushuru, tujitegemee.
You know that feeling where there's like a pain at the back of your head? What? You almost want to... But what about that moment when the pain finally starts to fade away? That moment when you go back to ordinary, to being your best self again. And it feels so good.
Get effective release from strong pain with Panadol Extra. Panadol. Release starts here. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice. Always read label before use.
The weather with SpiceFM.
Trying to be a sunny morning in Nairobi, 70 degrees, highs of 28 and lows of 14. It's 13 that will be the low in a sunny Nakuru, going to highs of 26, and we'll see highs of 25, and a sunny Nyeri at 17. It's 16 and sunny in Eldoret with highs of 24. We'll see lows of 13, while looking into a sunny Mombasa at 25, we'll see highs of 30. 31 will be the high in a sunny Malindi at 28, and 22 and sunny in Kisumu with highs of 30. We'll see highs of 30 as well in the sunny Kakamega at 21. Kampala is sunny at 22 and 24 and sunny in Dar es Salaam. We're looking at sunny conditions at 12 degrees in Johannesburg, and at 28 Mogadishu is mostly sunny. It's 20 and sunny in Addis Ababa, and we're looking into a sunny Lagos at 27 and a cloudy Kinshasa at 24.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
All right, just a little bit of traffic left as you're coming in from the Eastern Bypass. And now actually we're looking at inbound traffic right around North Airport Road going towards Outer Ring. Jogo Road, busy right around the Makadara train station, heading out towards Landis, which, by the way, is packed as you get towards Kamkunji at the roundabout. Coming off a thicker superhighway, traffic is dwindling, so it's not too bad. Past your service lanes and then onto that survey area. Kiambu Road, different story. Many lanes all going in the same direction as you try to approach Muthaiga Square, and it's busy coming off of Limuru Road, past Kitisuru, out towards United Nations Avenue, and that gets busier as you get towards Parklands, that area. It's busy on Wangari Maathai, heading out towards museums, and Uhuru Highway is probably going to be the busiest as we get through the top of the hour. Let's talk at SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Conversation continues with Jimmy Wanjeke, Safina Party leader. He's here talking about debt, tax, and the budget making process. And Jimmy, you were taking us through what the National Treasury had published, and now this has been, consolidated nicely into a nice report that can fit into one page. As of 30th of April this year,
yes,
what the National Treasury had achieved in terms of revenue raising and expenditures, what the original budget and the full year target had been, and what had been revised,
yes,
by the end of April.
Yes.
By the end of April, the government says it had raised 4.13 trillion shillings. Is that right? This is
Raised
the
forward.
opening balance. Total receipts.
No. Total receipts.
Oh, it's 3 trillion.
If you see, I don't
This
know what you're looking
includes
at. You're looking at the
total
original free. This is the original.
Total receipts achieved at 10 months.
Achieved at 10 months
Opening
is
balance.
3.04. This includes some domestic and external loans
Yes.
of about 1.4
Yes.
trillion shillings.
Yes.
And you're saying Parliament had only approved total borrowing at 313
Correct.
billion.
That's what in the appropriations bill.
That's what's in the law.
In the law.
And
Appropriations
then
Act, yes.
this has then again been revised for the full year target, which is coming to the end of next month,
Yes.
into some figure that would be close to 1.7 trillion shillings in terms of total borrowings.
Yes.
If you look at
Yes.
domestic
Yes.
borrowing and external loans.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
A lot of money, close to that 1.7 trillion shillings. And saying that this already is raising the red flags, because what has been passed, what's in law, and what's in practice are different.
Absolutely. In other words, what you're debating here today, that is so-called going to be passed by Parliament, becomes irrelevant within 1 month to the National Treasury. It does what it wants to do. Doesn't matter. That is where we have a problem in this country. These borrowings are phenomenal. 1.7, I believe 1.8 trillion. The previous regime's largest borrowings were 800 billion shillings. Even that, a lot of it was outside the law. But it was 800. In 1 year, and that was the year 2022-2023, in 1 year, the first budget of William Samoei Ruto, he has more than doubled loan borrowings. That was not even approved by Parliament. He's taken it to 1.7, 1.8 trillion. Okay? Right? On top of that, he has raised phenomenal taxes on us. These are regimes that went out saying they are not going to borrow, they are going to look for money here from tax. So they raise taxes phenomenally to us, and they borrow double the largest borrowing of the last regime, more than double. And this was not approved by Parliament. What has all this money gone to? You can see what it has gone to and what it's going to.
Where has it gone to?
It goes very simply to what is called public debt expenditure.
So, money has been borrowed from Peter to pay Paul.
Yes.
And the issue here is that even this money that is being paid to Paul, it is not clear where it went.
No.
Because the amount that we're looking at here of 849 billion shillings,
yes,
if that kind of money were to enter into the economy of
the whole country would change.
Wouldn't we see an impact?
It would be a huge impact. Huge impact. The largest single project that has been undertaken by this government, by the previous regime, was the SGR.
Yeah.
Right? And that was 500 billion. 800. What are you talking about? A level 6 hospital costs about 10 billion shillings. If you
fully
put one,
equipped with
fully
everything that
equipped,
you need.
fully equipped, you would put one in every county and more. You would feel it everywhere. You would not be something called a road here that is not tarmacked or does not have all weather. This so-called housing of people, there will not be a mud hut in Kenya. This is what we are talking about.
So if you were to make the connect, Jimmy, because when we come to a budgeting, the thing is that the whole budgeting cycle starts immediately, the last one has essentially been released. Let's call it that, right? So the process of getting into the budget for the next year begins. And what we are saying is that in looking to where to mop up this money from, that's when now we start saying, okay, let's increase a tax here, let's introduce another one here, because essentially what you're trying to do is to raise the revenue to then be able to meet the budget, raise the money. Where is this money going to come from? This is where it ought to come from, right? But what we are saying with this is that if we backtrack a little bit, actually just a little bit, that if we see this kind of money, and this is where we make the connect, is it not? That if we see this kind of money that is being paid in debt, that cannot be traced to anything, because we already know, and we can say it until we're blue in the face, but I think it's important, we already know that the only kind of borrowing that a nation, that Kenya can do, is for development. So if we see that money is being paid back to the tune of 850 billion shillings, that money ought to have gone towards development. You would have found the money. But we can't. And that's why we are seeing that there is an increase in these many taxes to look for this money, because that money is going towards paying a debt.
Now, you put it very well. Let me try and give you a summary of the last 10 years. We have done what you call the primary balance audit. Primary balance is expenditure without debt and income, tax revenue. So from July 2013 to June 2023, we did what you call a primary balance. So we took development for 10 years. That's a 10 years period. Development over that period was 6 trillion shillings. We took counties expenditure. We took salaries. We took operations, including all these confidential monies you talk about today. Right? We put all those operations things there. Right? And we said, what is the number? Remember, we have not put debt payments. The number came to 14.6. Those are our expenses in 10 years as a nation. 14.6 without debt payments. Then we did the column from KRA. How much tax revenue did KRA state it collected? And we verified it with figures that were in CBK. And when you look at the line, it came to 13.3 trillion, 10 years. The difference being
just about a trillion.
1.3 trillion. So you say, okay, so what did we borrow? That is now what is called the deficit. That is the debt we should have borrowed in 10 years. Which means maybe 100 and something billion a year. Correct? All right. What did we borrow? 7.7 trillion, which means it was not on the budget, does not exist in our books, for going towards nothing. 6.4 trillion above what we needed. If you take 1.3 was 10 years, 6.4 is for another 60 years. That is what we are paying here. And it never came to us, we never passed it in Parliament.
But we're paying for it.
But we're paying for it. And what is happening, and that's the thing that we need to appreciate. You're talking about tax, tax, tax. I said here on this show, when a government is bankrupt, it bankrupts its citizens. William Ruto has advertised your bankruptcy. He said, in fact, in the next 3 years, by the time his term is over, he's just going to keep increasing this tax to get to some GDP ratio to tax, which is a fallacy. Okay? A complete fallacy. Right? Towards what? It's because they are bankrupt. And he doesn't want to admit it. He doesn't want to make a hard decision to say, to do what we have been saying all along. Default on this thing. Investigate it. You find it is odious to us. You're punishing us. You have made us slaves. In fact, he is increasing it. And now, this is why we say that he does not publish revised estimates and doesn't publish according to our laws. You talked about, too, the motor vehicle tax.
Yeah.
What is that?
I'm not quite sure. You know, just going to... is it motor vehicle insurance?
No.
Circulation tax.
Circulation tax, right?
But what is that? Under which category? Tax is supposed to be on an earning. You earn a salary, I come to take as the taxman. You earn a profit, I come to tax as the taxman. Right? you value add on goods, services, something. So a motor vehicle is an asset. Correct?
Yeah.
Am I earning on it? In fact, it's a depreciating asset.
Sure. You spend to operate it.
I spent to buy it. I spent to operate it. In fact, I think the quantum of taxation right up to operation is something like 16 taxes. All right? From purchase to operations. So it's my asset. And the thing is that when I go and insure it, I give it a value. Right? So I say my car is worth 1 million shillings. Insure it for that. So that's where they've gone. To say, you've given it a value, now we want to take from it. Isn't that a haircut? How is that different from taking your bank account? Yeah.
Say that again.
How different is it?
So I buy a car.
Yes.
And it's valued at, let's even say it's not me who has done it in a million. There's a qualified assessor who values it at 1 million shillings.
Yes.
And that's the amount that I'm going to insure it for.
Yes.
So the motor vehicle circulation tax is pegged on the value of that car, that
Absolutely.
1 million bob.
Absolutely.
And so it's taxing 2.5% of that.
Yes.
And you're saying that is a haircut.
Yes.
What's a haircut?
What are you earning?
What's a haircut?
A haircut is anywhere where the sovereign is made to cut their savings, their values, their assets to support a state. So where we used to talk about a haircut on your bank accounts, like what happened in Ghana, where 30% of your deposits, whether they were in M-Pesa, whether they were in your bank accounts, right, were taken away. Here, they found a value in your vehicle, and they're taking away. Because this is not the principle of taxation. Taxation is on an earning. Your car is a depreciating asset. It's an asset. Earns you nothing. Earns you nothing.
If it's earning me, let's tax on the earnings.
But what earnings?
On the upside.
You do on the earnings. But if it's a mode of transport, it's an asset. Right? And they get the asset value when you insure it. Because as you said, an assessor values it. Right? So they are coming for your asset. The last time there was such a tax was the hut tax that was brought by the British.
Yeah.
Right? That if you have a roof called a hut, you pay tax. That led, in fact, it was one of the biggest instigators of a movement called Mau Mau. Right? Rebellion through and through, and it had to be cut. This is the same thing. They're coming for our assets. Why are they coming for our assets? It's a haircut. They're cutting what you have. And it's the first attempt.
But in this case, according to what you're saying, cutting from what you have in order to pay for something that you were not involved in borrowing in the first place.
That is what is going on in this country. And I can assure you, we are not getting out of this as long as we have a delinquent regime in power. We are not getting out of it.
But how does this happen under the watch of everybody? The watch of all the players in the economy of this country, both in government and in non-government entities, political parties, financial watchers such as yourself and the others in Safina. How does it happen? How can we say that it has happened, for example, just looking at by the 30th of April, that there was a borrowing of 686 billion shillings domestically, 520 externally, and there was a repayment of loans of 1.3 trillion shillings, and all these expenditures of just 235 billion shillings on development budget, on development spending at the national government. How does this happen if it's outside of the law and nobody's noticing?
It can't be. I must laugh at that question, because we like to go into this belief that we still have a modicum of some institutions here. Yeah. I think if you're going to assess the last 11 years, I think that fallacy should be thrown in the garbage. Right?
We don't have institutions.
We don't have.
But do we have individuals?
How many times? We have individuals. I commend the COB. I commend the Auditor General. They write reports. They bring out all these. They take them to Parliament. What happens? They take them to ACC. What happens? Which institutions are you talking about? Yes. In fact, the only people now who can bring attention to this are the ones who are keeping the government afloat, who are loaning this government, IMF, World Bank. And I'm now starting to believe they must be complicit. Though I'm hearing murmurs.
But there's even more.
I'm hearing murmurs that they are now asking questions.
Who lends the government domestically?
Correct.
Retail.
And where is it? And where is it?
Retail investors
yes.
are the biggest lenders.
Correct. And
Retail is you and I, Jimmy.
We went through it. We went through it here. Here we are. Our money that we deposit in banks, right, goes towards treasury bills, loaning the government. And then they come back to us for taxation to pay it. And you cannot tell where that money went towards anything. It has never built a bridge here. It has never done anything. The other day, I saw the most ridiculous thing. And again, look at this. Plain inside, just last week. They said the government has invested our housing levy money into government bonds. So here they take money from us, it becomes their money. Then they want to borrow their own money.
And pay interest.
And pay interest. So they come back to us for more taxation to pay interest on what we already contributed as a levy. And even the media, the sad thing is, even the media did not get it. Some of the experts in the media were talking about absorption. So they're investing the money because there's no absorption to build housing. That's not the issue.
What's the issue, Jimmy?
Why? Where does it say they can borrow their own money? To do what? Who told them that they are supposed to invest and come back to us to pay that so-called profit in interest? Where does it say that? These are delinquents. This is where the issue is. These are criminals.
Are you saying it's
what
illegal?
You're talking about here
Are you saying it's illegal?
Is a criminal enterprise in this country.
It's illegal for the government to borrow that kind of money.
Absolutely. How? How does it borrow its own money?
It's illegal for the government to borrow from the fund.
No, it was not even from the fund.
It's earmarked.
No,
this one is
it was not a
fund.
Please take note. Please take note. In the last financial bill, they passed what was called a housing levy, which the court nullified as unconstitutional.
Yes.
The housing fund is yet now to start being cut.
To be
operationalized. That is housing levy money. That actually, I know there is a court case for the return of that money. Right? Because it should be returned. How are you investing it?
And if you borrow...
It's not even investment, by the way. Why are you borrowing your own money?
If you take that money, to pay it back into this fund, you'll need to pay it with interest.
Correct.
And
But just not fund. Don't call it a fund yet. Please.
Levy.
You can't move from levy to fund.
Levy.
That one was illegal. Right? It's nullified. You have to give it back to Mwananchi.
The interest to pay it, where will it come from?
You and I. But why is the government borrowing its own money? Why would you borrow your own money at an interest rate of 16%? And where, please tell me, where in law that is provided for? Please.
That's what I asked you, Jimmy.
That's the point I'm trying to make. That we have delinquents to our laws here. In as much as we can talk about the last 10 years, this current regime is done worse than the very worst that we had seen in the previous regimes in terms of breakage of law. And it has no business being where it is, because they are pure delinquents of the law. They have broken these laws of this country. Public finance management is part of our constitution. They have broken the laws, right? They have no business being in office. And I'm telling you, we are going to all stand up as Kenyans and run them out of town. We are not going to accept this continual pain. We are not. We are not. Out of pure illegalities. Illegalities. You perpetuate pain to us. We are not going to accept it. We are not.
Let's talk about it again in the next hour. Stay, Jimmy.
Thank you.
Okay, let's do the news. Stay. When you come, we'll look at this. So you're saying there are illegalities that have been perpetuated?
Absolutely and completely.
You'll show us.
Absolutely and completely.
The Appropriations Act of 2023.
Absolutely and completely.
What it approved.
Yes.
And then we look at the National Treasury, what it has spent and raised.
Yes.
And then you now point us to us and say, this is where the illegality is.
Kabisa.
Sawa.
Kabisa.
Tusiongee tu hapa mambo juju.
Kabisa.
From one side without figures from the other side.
Kabisa.
I want to see the law.
Kabisa. You want to see the law and you want to see the appropriations bill. Correct?
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay.
Hiyo nitakuonyesha sahi.
Kenya's biggest conversation is hosting Jimmy Wanjege. We're talking about debt, government expenditure and revenue. We're in the thick of the budget making cycle. How are we doing? 9 a.m. news time. Keep it here.
Spice up your life.
It's now 9 a.m. Get effective relief from strong pain with Panadol Extra. Panadol. Relief starts here.
This is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. The National Prayer Breakfast meeting at Safari Park Hotel continues as politicians, religious leaders as well as other invited stakeholders have gathered in order to pray for the country. Speaking during his opening remarks, Speaker of the Senate Amason Kingi said that prayer kept the country strong even as we faced the various challenges, including the floods that claimed hundreds of lives as well as the loss of General Fred Ogola and other military officials. President William Ruto and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua, accompanied by their wives, are the ones who are leading the nation in the prayer meeting.
Just a month ago, we lost nearly 300 people as a result of the phenomenal floods that swept through our country. The cost of the devastation has been estimated at tens of billions of shillings. As we went through our week of national mourning in honor of fellow Kenyans killed by the floods, we learned to appreciate our absolute dependence on God in the face of such tragic outcomes that lay bare our traits as humans. The tragic loss of the Chief of the Kenya Defence Force, General Francis Ogola, and team of military officers in a helicopter crash around the same time capped a particularly dark episode in the history of this country. I dare add that it took our faith in God to walk through this very dark tunnel.
A teacher in Kisii has been sentenced to 35 years in jail for defilement. Etago magistrate Vane Moguche found the 30-year-old guilty of defiling a grade 4 minor on diverse dates of February last year and June. In her testimony, the minor told the court the accused had some time in February, finished teaching them, but released other pupils and remained with her before dragging her to his house, where he defiled her repeatedly. After the act, the minor said the teacher threatened to kill her if she dared to tell anyone about it. A prime suspect who has owned an AK-47 rifle that has been used in a string of robberies in Laikipia County has been arrested. The DCI said that 46-year-old Renkel Lentam was apprehended in Nanyuki town after a long trail by investigative officers. The weapon and the ammunition were seized, documented, and then forwarded to the National Forensic Laboratory for ballistic examination. Meanwhile, a manhunt is on for suspected accomplices who are still at large. A team formed to investigate the chopper crash that killed former Chief of Defence Forces General Francis Ogola and 10 others has visited the U.S. as part of the probe into the incident. Defence Cabinet Secretary Aidan Duale revealed that the team went to the Bell Tectron Inc. company that manufactured the ill-fated chopper with some of the collected parts of their helicopter. He said that this will enable the manufacturer to, among others, determine how and why the chopper crashed.
Our investigation and inquiry is going on. As the Commander-in-Chief and the President has promised the country, we will avail a very detailed report. The Defense Council will receive it, and the Commander-in-Chief will receive, and the Kenyan taxpayers will fund our military heavily. We will have an answer, and the family and friends of General Ogola.
The Cabinet Secretary at the same time dismissed claims that most of the military equipment in the country was obsolete and was the cause of most aircraft crashes, saying that he was constantly using the same chopper that killed Ogola. He likewise divulged that the plane that recently killed Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi, the country's foreign minister, and 6 other people was also from the same manufacturer and model.
The helicopter in which the Iranian president died and the foreign minister and everybody, it's the same helicopter.
The same one?
The same one. The same one. It's built from the US with the 2 propellers. So we are looking at all our air assets going forward. I agree with you. We had the frequency of incidents in the last 2 years was a bit very high, and that's why at the Defense Headquarters we have tasked the Air Force Commander to do for us an evaluation of all our air assets.
That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, a few minutes after 9 o'clock, traffic, I think, dwindling here and there. We're done on Langata Road, getting towards the CBD, so free and clear there. Also on Jogo Road, just that Makadara train station areas where you find some traffic done on the Thika Superhighway. And coming off of Kiambu Road, still traffic as you get towards Muthaiga Square. The Globe Cinema roundabout coming off Muranga Road is still very busy, and that loop that takes us from Wangari Maathai out towards Chiromo and then into Westlands is still very busy. You're looking at bumper-to-bumper situation. Apart from that, everything else seems to be flowing smoothly. Let's just keep an eye on things as we come to the end of Traffic Hour. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Lafiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It is 7 minutes after 9. We are on to the final hour of the Situation Room this morning. Jimmy Wanjeke stays on, the party leader of Safina and presidential hopeful for 2027, politician and businessman, budget and all. Before we went to the break, I asked you, so do you have with you the Appropriations Act 2023?
Yes.
And what it says? It's a voluminous document,
yes,
because it goes into item per item, each state department, each agency, each office, and how much has been allocated into it. And then there's a summarized version of it in terms of appendices.
Correct.
Okay. Take us through what we need to look at.
Now, if you look at Volume 1, it's called the Estimates of Development Expenditure. That's where you anchor debt. Remember, you can only borrow for development. So, in the anchor of development there, you have a schedule, right? The donor, as I've always said before, the donor is listed, right? This is procured before the budget, not after the budget, right? The sources of revenue, right, are gotten before the budget. So, here you have all the donors for the development expenditure, right? External loan funding. Summary of external loans funding. Can you see this? 2023-2024 budget. Okay? And you have the total, grand total at the end.
Summary of external loans budget. This is Appendix what?
Appendix 1B.
1B. I'm looking at that. It's called a Summary of External Funding 2023-24 Budget, listed by a donor.
By donor, correct.
Okay.
So if you go to the last three columns, you have total loans, total grants, and then you go to the bottom. Total loans 272 or so.
Yeah.
And you have 42 are grants.
Yeah.
And you have a grand total of entire external funding on loans and grants of 313 billion.
13 billion.
Right? This is June. This is the appropriations bill. This is what Parliament passed. It did not pass any other external loans, grants for any funding. But a month later, the National Treasury lists external loans and grants as 870 billion.
So one would assume that if it's listed, it's been approved by Parliament. But what we are saying is that it's very clear that what Parliament approved was 300 and some odd billion.
Yes.
A few weeks after that, the National Treasury lists that amount plus another 557 billion.
Correct.
So things are just being done as though,
Parliament is irrelevant.
Parliament is irrelevant.
Even all our discussions are irrelevant.
But I continue to ask, why put such a huge figure out there? Or is it just basically, or are you saying it's just showing that things can be done as is wanted?
It's hidden in plain sight.
Without the proper documentation or explanation.
But who reads the appropriations bill, as Eric was saying?
That's a good question.
It's a voluminous document.
Yeah.
Who reads it to understand it and compare it with the Gazette notice that is issued every mid-month? Who? We do. And when we do...
Exactly. It's published.
Yes.
So it's available for people to read.
Yes.
You have 12 months, you can read through it.
Yes.
Okay. Many pieces of legislation are long-winded, full of legal jargon. People read. Judgments of the court, which form part of our laws, are long, wordy, verbose, and all, but people read. So even these things, people read, Jimmy.
The problem is people don't read.
Really?
I'm telling you, they do not read. They do not read numbers in relation to the laws of this land. Because those are two things. You read this in accordance with the laws of our land. For example, we're just talking about the procedure of the budget. How do you bring the cart before the horse? You're busy debating the finance bill. You've not seen the appropriations bill. You've not debated it. It has not gone to public participation. Why are you talking about revenue-raising measures of something you have not approved? If you read the law, it's clear what comes first. It is there. It is there in the Constitution. It is there in public finance management. It's there. It's even stipulated what comes first, the sequence. It's there. But who really gets down to looking at both?
So
and if you look at both together, is when you see the criminality. And that's what we bother to do with our forensic audit.
Is this in our history, Jimmy? Has this been happening since independence?
This happened with the new constitution, with the new Public Finance Management Act. And I can tell you, I don't know, maybe when Treasury began, they didn't understand, or they interpreted the laws to be different, or they were trying to follow what used to happen in the past. But if you want to know where our problems, when the rain started beating us, right, is when Treasury started breaking the law. And they started breaking it 10 years ago. And they still are at it.
Are you saying, Jimmy, that before the new constitution, what was passed as a budget, what was gazetted as the appropriations, was never tinkered with by the Treasury?
Yes. It was nowhere near.
In the Kibaki days.
It was no. Oh, no. You cannot put malfeasance to the Kibaki days.
Nothing happened.
Even domestic borrowing had a leeway. It was not, remember at the time it was not Public Finance Management Act, right?
Yes.
It was different financial controls. And they had leeway. But a lot of these laws were specifically embedded in our constitution and in public finance management because we needed accountability. Everybody felt that giving leeway to Treasury, to a president, to this and this, must now have an accountability process. And it starts this way. The law of how you process our public finance management, right, is embedded in the Constitution, public finance and regulations. Controls. It is called controls. And you do not veer beyond controls. And that the sole responsibility at the end of it all is the president, who issues and signs the warrants that kick off the budget. All right? Now, those are called controls. Treasury for the last 11 years has just done whatever it wants to do. Now, it's like your own place. The minute your accountant is just doing whatever he wants, is not abiding by controls, you have the biggest problem on us. And this government, which was also in the previous one, this one is even more notorious. It is doing things you cannot imagine. You cannot imagine. How do you go and borrow 1.8 trillion shillings? How do you do it?
Against an approval of 300 billion.
Of 300.
Jimmy, there must be something.
No. There's no
you're
two
missing
ways.
something.
There's no two ways.
You're missing something.
What am I missing? What am I missing?
We're talking about some big numbers here.
Yes.
And this is what we're looking at. That, and like we keep saying, okay, I like the example that you gave of saying it takes 10 billion shillings to build a level 6 hospital. You could do one for every county and have some change with the amount of money that we're talking about here. So how is it possible for you to disappear 600 billion shillings? And we don't know, we cannot see any sign of it at all, but it's being paid for with every breath of every Kenyan. How is that?
6 trillion.
6 trillion, I beg your pardon.
Yes.
Where does it go? Oh, no, I'm just talking about this year. The 600 billion I'm talking about is just this year.
For this year?
Yeah, because that's...
No, it's more than 600.
For this year is more.
It's more than 600.
No, we're talking about the difference between what was...
It is
300 is 1.5. 1.5.
So with this 849
1.5 trillion. 1.5 trillion.
In the year.
Yes.
Right?
Now, I want you to see something
so
here.
Where would it go?
Now, here we go. You have public... On this line, you have public debt expenditure.
Yep.
Right? Go to the second last column. Revised full year. This is what we're paying in public debt this year.
1.866 trillion
And
shillings.
what have we borrowed? Roughly the same.
About 1.7.
So that's where it's going.
It's going back to pay debt for which you didn't see.
Correct. And then I want you to look at the column of development. Remember it was 870? It's revised to 457.
Right.
Right? Of which, up to date, up to the end of April, only 235 billion has been spent. So what is fueling growth in this country? Government is not doing it. Counties are not receiving their money. For us in the private sector, it's too expensive to borrow. It's costing us plus 20 interest rate, right? So what is fueling development? What has been stabilized in this country economically? We are sinking. This is a sinking ship, okay? And they are sinking us by the day. And we must wake up to this reality. We must seriously wake up to this reality. What is this thing? Why is this happening? What is this that Kenyans are so cursed to? And I can only go back to what I believe is planned poverty. There's a matrix of planned poverty.
To what end, though?
Planned poverty was brought here by the colonialists. When the colonialists was fighting in Europe, they did the scramble for Africa. And when they came here, they created a plantation crop. Coffee, tea, sugarcane, plantation crop. In other parts of Africa, they did cocoa, right? Sisal, those things. And even there, they created regulation as to how much is going to be planted by a native. We were called natives. Okay?
Yeah.
Where the colonialists could only do so much because there were not very many of them. Right? The native was given a license to plant on his own land. Right? And was told, this is your price. A lot of studies have shown that planned poverty right, has made the difference between our standard of living and their standard of living because of the price margins. All right? Now, it is a model that has continued in independent Kenya, where this country generally has about 60% of the population worrying about an item called food, and that's it. And the aspiration is to take their child to school, right? Again, brought by the same Zungu, taught in many ways as a brainwashing method, okay? The child is supposed to take the family out of the poverty cycle. And if it doesn't happen, it's okay. They'll come back and be another hand to bring food to the home. Then you have a middle class, who have salaries, who have kidogo soft life. They're able to get a few loans, mortgage, right? There's lower, middle, and upper middle class, right? That are no more than 30% that are kept there, right? And they're controlled there. They're the educated, right? They're the strong civil servants, the professors. But, you know, they're really a salary away, a default on a loan away from poverty. So they never stick out their necks to fight a government, to ask the tough questions. They don't. Then you have 10% who are the ruling elite, of which only 1% are the true ruling elite. The others are just believe they are, but they are not. It's like what we're talking about parliament, right? What are they changing even with all this information here? So it is a controlled way of managing a nation. And that era has gone. That is why over the last 50 years, we fought for political rights to have a say. And we got it. I believe we achieved it with the new constitution. Right? The new constitution was about political rights. And political rights are about cutting up this cake called Kenya. Cutting it up. So devolution is there. My slice, judiciary is independent. Supposed to be. Right? Now we're in a different era. We are complaining about governance. That's what we're doing now. We're complaining about the governance of our political rights. And we are complaining and we are learning. One thing that I have decided I must is teach, is educate, is enlighten. Because leadership is about that. So we are learning about the wrong governance of it. But we have not understood that we are now in another phase. This phase is called economic rights. And economic rights is about baking the cake. And the same struggle we had for our political rights, whether it was removing the Mzungu from here, colonialism, whether it was removing our local Mzungu in terms of our dictators and removing T2A and changing and bringing democracy of the new Constitution 2010, is going to be a similar fight. Those fights took a lot. They took lives. They took, they maimed people, they hospitalized people, they brought the country down in many, many times. It's going to be the same fight for economic rights. Because this is about baking. Who is baking this cake? And for whose benefit? And baking the cake is a fight and a half. Now, we have very interesting history. Everything that happens here, and I say in the continent of Africa, has something to do with what's happening outside. We like to feel when we got independence that we had our good Mau Mau that went and fought. Yes, and they took on the British Empire. That was the largest empire we've known in the world. 500 million people. And we are the only ones who did it here in Kenya. And yes, we may have been a catalyst. But between 1958 and 1964-65, most of Africa was freed. That period corresponded with the next wave of European fights. So it had gone from the World War of 1945 to now the Cold War. Okay? Remember, Scramble in Africa was about their wars?
Yep.
Now, our independence was the beginning of their Cold War between East and West. If you look at 1992, in fact 89 to about 93, 94, when multipartyism came in, which the same Zungus were very good at pushing. It happened when you had a total closure of the Cold War.
Yeah.
And now the West was consolidating. And what had happened, they had too many rich dictators in Africa. Too many people that were able to look at them and knew them. So democracy has a way of making you look at your own place.
Yeah.
You can't see anybody else. So we were made to focus on our own place. We are now going through the next war, and you can feel it. It started with COVID, right? It is an issue being pushed on climate control. Why? If you ask the Middle Easterns, they'll tell you it's because they want to take away oil as the source of energy. You have now got the resurgence of Russia and China coming up as maybe the next wave or next empire. Again, we are the ground under which this is fought. And we have to decide this time around as a nation whether, you know, we were not there when our forefathers were colonized. We now know a lot more. Maybe the battle is bigger than William Samoei Ruto. We are complaining here about governance. But I believe the battle is bigger and wider than William Samoei Ruto.
What do you think needs to, I mean, because I think when we look at these numbers and we talk about the fact that, you know, a lot of people don't read, I think there's also the element of really then being able to decipher what these things actually, what these numbers actually mean. I mean, the point that you brought out today, we're talking about appropriations. Well, we should be talking about appropriations, and we've not. And we're talking about a finance bill which comes after. You know, you've laced
just a revenue
together. You know?
People believe that the finance bill is the budget.
There you
It
go.
is not the budget.
But you see now, this is what I'm talking about. Even that, how do you, as the ground, fight if you're not even sure?
But we have articulated our slavery.
Exactly.
All right?
Yeah.
According to these numbers, as of the end of April, 75.1% of our revenue has gone to debt. Okay? If we are going to look towards the end, I think it won't go below that. Because I think Kenya Revenue has said that they will not even reach their revenue target. They've said that they may be short about 300 billion. Which means that they may be only about 100 billion more than the previous financial year. So we're probably getting to 80% of our revenue going to one item. It is huge.
It is.
Do I heard you this morning talking about confidential votes? I'm telling you, these are just people who are eating
What's
sinking
confidential
ship.
vote, by the way?
Confidential vote, it's very unfortunate that it is being shoved around the way it was. Confidential vote is something that was institutionalized in NIS, right? That there's money that the intelligence services need to collect money that they really should not be held accountable for.
For buying information and
For
so
buying
on and so
information.
forth.
Okay.
And it seems that this regime has taken it to mean that each political boss has got that leeway.
Yeah.
I remember one time when Sonko was the governor of Nairobi, he said he's also created one as governor of Nairobi.
Like a confidential vote.
A confidential vote, because he needs to also buy intelligence for this. You know, it actually came there. Right?
So confidential vote here now, the office of the president has, the deputy president has, the prime cabinet secretary,
Why?
the head of public
Why?
service.
What are they doing confidentially? What are they doing? We understand NIS. That one, in fact, we support 100%. If they even need more money for that, they should get it. Why are public offices politically accountable to us? Because the NIS is not politically accountable to us.
No.
These public offices are politically accountable. Why do they need confidential money? It's slush money.
It is.
It's a place to just dip and go and say,
do
I'm going to
whatever you
Arambe, I'm going whatever. It is our money. And they pretend it's theirs. Or buy people, buy MPs, buy this, buy political favor. It's terrible. It's terrible. This is criminality.
Jimmy.
But they'll say Parliament passed it.
Of course. It's in the law.
Which law?
See, it will be in the act.
Which law?
See, the appropriation.
If you go further to public finance management, money must be targeted.
It can't just be blanket.
Can't be blanket. And must be accountable. When you make it confidential, you're saying it is not accountable.
Let's take a break. 29 minutes after 9, Jimmy Wanjege is here. He's our guest. We're talking about debt and budget. What do we need to be focusing on and what are we thinking about? So he's raised the issues of what's in the current law, the Appropriations Act of 2023, and what it says we should have spent the money on, and what we've ended up spending money on. I still want to come back here, Jimmy, and ask, when we have 688 billion shillings borrowed domestically, who has lent this money to the government?
Good. Yeah, good question.
Because we can see the external loans, we can go and say, all right, so you borrowed from FDB, you borrowed from Trade and Development Bank, you borrowed from China Exim Bank, you borrowed from Africa Exim Bank. This domestic, we borrowed from mostly what we know is individual retail lenders.
Correct.
This is Akina Jimmy Wanjege. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
They say, when someone you love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a treasure. It is in these moments you need a partner who will celebrate the memory of a loved one in a special way. Berur FM, in partnership with the Standard newspaper, is giving you a combo offer.
Do you have the passion, the interest to tell a story to the world in your own style? Well, we're ready to take you in and help you grow your talents in the media industry. The Standard Group, in partnership with Talanta Institute, is offering a media training and incubation program courtesy of Standard Talanta Academy, where we nurture and guide industry talents on an array of topics from writing, reporting, media law and ethics, investigative journalism and research to the Kenya Copyright Board, Kenya Film Commission and the Kenya Films and Classification Board legal frameworks. To apply to the Standard Talanta Academy for our upcoming May intake, visit www.talanta.ac.ke or call 0724 468 468. The Standard Talanta Academy.
The weather with SpiceFM.
All right, partly sunny conditions in Nairobi this morning. We'll see highs through Thursday of 25 and lows of 14. Highs of 26 and lows of 13 in a sunny Nakuru, and highs of 25 and lows of 13 in a sunny Nyeri. The sun is up at 19 in Eldoret, and we're looking into a sunny Mombasa, going to highs of 30 and lows of 24. And Malindi will be sunny with highs of 31 and lows of 26. Kisumu is sunny at 25 with highs of 30, while at 24 it's sunny in Kakamega with highs of 30 and lows of 16. Kampala is sunny at 24 with sunny conditions at 25 in Dar es Salaam. Johannesburg now sunny at 14, going to highs of 20, and Mogadishu at 30 will see highs of 31. Addis Ababa at 21 will go to highs of 28, while Lagos sunny at 27 will see highs of 33. It's cloudy at 24 in Kinshasa, going to highs of 34. We're looking into a sunny Beijing at 32, a cloudy Paris at 13, and a cloudy London at 14. It's cloudy at 17 in New York, coming into Thursday with highs of 23 and lows of 14.
Spice up your life.
All right. So where does the traffic continue this morning? Really nowhere. I think we've done well coming out of traffic hour. Just a few trouble spots here and there. Getting to the roundabout at Globe Cinema and then into the CBD. That's still a bit sticky. And then also coming off of Kiamburu. Just a little bit of that left for now. We've done well out of traffic hour in good time today. Through the morning, let's talk on SpiceFM KE on X.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
27 to 10, our conversation continues. Jimmy Wanjege is still here with us in the studio. Jimmy, you've
yes, sir,
for example, pointed us towards this and said, in this current budget that is coming to an end next month, a lot of illegalities have been committed.
Absolutely.
Number one is what was approved by Parliament and what has the National Treasury has ended up doing completely in breach of the law.
Correct.
Under the watch of everybody who's in this country.
Correct. And also outsiders.
Even outsiders.
Yes.
Even those that, raise matters with us.
Correct.
Even those that have been lent us money and are continuing to lend us money.
Correct.
So why would this happen?
That's the point. What is this conspiracy against the Kenyan people? Because it is against us. It is against us. And please, I want you to remember, these are government that said they are not going to borrow. They are going to raise money from hard-working Kenyans. So they raise taxes phenomenally. Taxes we never even imagined exist. Right? And they are continuing to do so. And they borrowed figures that have never been seen. Which means they are furthering our pain. Right? They are beyond distress levels. They are default levels. They reached there a long time ago. Right? They are doing things in open, plain sight. When I was here in January, we talked about default in February, March. So what do? Go and borrow to pay the Eurobond at more expensive rates. Please tell me, show me in that appropriation bill where there's an approval to borrow to pay existing loans. Where? But nobody raised it. Everyone talked about how we've escaped default. We've dodged the bullet. We've done this, we've done that. How have we dodged it? We've dug ourselves deeper in a hole.
And then the shilling gained on the US dollar.
But we have dug ourselves deeper in a hole. You imagine this figure. We are talking about public debt this year being 1.866 in terms of payments. This is revised at a time when the shilling has come down to 130. If there's a slight change to that, what does it mean? Between now and even the end of this financial year. Next month, you've got another 500 billion that needs to be paid for Eurobond. Right? They only paid 1.5. 500 needs to be paid next month. So they're going to do the same borrowings? And you're all going to clap and say, yes, 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 yes. Who has given them that approval? We are supposed to pay our loans from our tax revenue. We're not supposed to, what you call loan kiting. Take a loan, Peter, to pay Paul.
Pay another one.
We are not supposed to be doing that. When you see that, that immediately tells you that is an enterprise in big trouble.
Yeah.
You asked about huge trouble.
It's just staying afloat. So if we call this a conspiracy...
Not staying afloat, it is sinking. Eric, you're too generous. And I'm not predicting doom. Just tell me if these figures are getting better or worse. Because, I've had people say, Jimmy is just predicting doom. We are in doom. We are living it.
If you call it a conspiracy, Jimmy, to what end?
That's the point.
I want to ask you. So, for example, the IMF keeps reviewing, and the World Bank, they keep reviewing. They say the National Treasury, come and tell us what you're doing, A, B, C, D. We review the standing, we review the status of issues, and then we say, so we approve for you to be able to have access to X amount of money to support your budget. They're looking at it. Are they seeing the illegality? Not the whole. The illegality, the flouting of the law?
I can assure you, they are. And I can also assure you, some of them have been asking questions.
But then what's
all right? But somewhere there seems to be an acceptance that let us just help them. Like they're helping us dig our own grave. So what is the purpose? What is this purpose?
Okay.
Why are we being sunk?
So that's one side.
Yes.
Internally, locally, we've got people such as yourselves. We've got civil society entities that deal and look at budgets, groups of economists, that look at budget, that understand these things, that can look and decipher. This is the Voluminous Appropriations Act. This is what's coming out of the National Treasury. So regularly they can actually look and see. Why are we not hearing the voices? Where is the conspiracy? Where is the local conspiracy?
You know what happens? I recall when we came up with our first forensic audit on this, July 2022. I had a lot of professionals call me afterwards. Told me, Jimmy, very good investigation. Some of us paid attention to it. But most Kenyans, even as professionals, in fact, this was a lawyer who said, we don't do more, we don't know math more than 1 + 1 = 2. So you're talking a lot of things there. Yeah? law, money. That's
complicated.
Maybe you keep talking, maybe we'll get it.
And those are the professionals.
Those are professionals.
Yeah.
Now, 2 years down the line, okay, I think we're having more and more discussions about it. Primarily because I think some of us came on these shows, your show, here. And people started paying attention, more and more attention. I believe along the way, maybe we've tried to simplify it for people. But even then, they are very far. Then remember I told you about planned poverty. The conspirators are in the 10%. All right? The other day, the government went out and said it has borrowed an infrastructure bond of how much? 200 and something billion.
Yep.
Infrastructure is development. There's no place where there's a development expenditure from domestic money to build any infrastructure. Any infrastructure. You've seen with the development budget here, spending is only at
235 billion by the end of April.
The infrastructure bond was more than that.
And this is money that was already borrowed, taken cash into
yes.
the accounts.
Which infrastructure did it go to? And our banks all participated. Foreign money, so-called, came in. It was called an infrastructure bond. Big carrot to it is that it's tax-free. Was at the time, now they bring tax, but it was tax-free. Which infrastructure is it funding?
And if there was a tag applied to it, then we would be able to know where that was going.
Yes, but the prospectus that goes out is an infrastructure bond.
Sure.
Which infrastructure?
Which one?
Where is it in the appropriations bill?
It must be pegged to something.
Yes, I'm showing you the expenditure in April. 235. This is from our taxes. This has nothing to do with any bond. Now, we have a problem here. Why people invested in that is because you have a figure there called 18%. It's a great return. It has nothing to do whether the government is following the law. So it's the greed of the people who have money. So who are the conspirators in this?
I think
many willing and unwilling.
One of the things that we need to be looking forward to, because we talk about public participation, because in jurisdictions where the sovereign actually do have a voice and are actually activating that voice, is that there is a very basic minimum, even an understanding of what exactly is going on. I think you've touched on a live wire there when you talk about, there are quite a number of people who are worth their salt in what they do, and there's a lack of understanding in terms of what is even actually going on here and what these numbers mean one to the other. It's a very, very difficult position to be in, to lobby or to speak over something for which I have minimal or little or no understanding about. And I think that's where the problem is.
It's very worrisome because let's go to maybe something a bit simpler, like the housing levy. All right? When it was brought about, the last financial bill, in this current finance bill, not the one being debated, the one that has passed. Now, that was a direct taxation. So you'd expect the people who are earning salaries would be well aware of the pain of paying that money. All right? Now, if you look at public participation over the housing levy, 90% of the people said, we don't want it. Qualitative. There is law done from Kiambu County by Judge Odunga, I think in 2014 or 15, about quantitative and qualitative. All right? Who said they don't want it? The government still passed it. Parliament still passed it. If you look at the UDA manifesto, they talk about housing. And you know what they put budgetary implications? Budget neutral. What does that mean, do? They even say they are going to get money from pension funds. So they are not going to come and tax us. So they broke their manifesto. They didn't care about public participation. The courts nullified it. Have they even returned the money? And even those who have been deducted, why are they not crying for it? You tell me what this is. Please tell me. What is this state of Kenyans?
So what is it? It's a conspiracy against our own selves? Is it a lack of awareness?
We are seemingly I think we give institutions, government, too much benefit of doubt before we hit the roof. But slowly, because of pain, people are paying more and more attention to these numbers. They are paying more and more attention to what we are saying. They are slowly but very clearly stating to the whole nation what the problem is, and it's economic. And probably what will be the question of the next election, this economy. So slowly but surely, they want to get educated. But it takes time. It takes time. Even some of what I'm saying here, I mean, we are repeating. Why are our banks? Even after all we have said, there is nowhere where there's domestic borrowing in the budget. Why are you
lending
to the government?
Yes. Where is it in law? Just because CBK issues a bond, you ask yourself, why don't you do your due diligence? Where is your risk analysis to say what law are they following? They don't. They don't. Here, you have 100% absorption of domestic borrowing, right? If you look here, you see domestic financing, domestic borrowing, 100% absorption by the end of April.
Yeah.
All right? Okay, before the revised. But in May, they are issuing more bonds.
You've seen there's money.
Yeah.
More bonds.
There's money locally.
And banks are participating. It's our money. Who is asking us? Who is asking us? You're a customer. Who is asking us? Where is this that it is taken? They'll say they go to AGMs and they talk about it. But where do those AGMs understand the law? That the banks is investing depositors' money in bonds and bills. And that is actually against the law if you're not doing so, especially bonds for development. The infrastructure bond is a 7-year, I think it was a 7-year bond. It's long term. There's no infrastructure, it is funding this financial year. So it has gone against our laws.
Yeah. So
where has it gone? To pay this debt of 1.866, this odious debt we keep talking about.
Well, clearly not, because it's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where is it?
So where did it
What
go?
is it doing? You have a government that, you imagine the business daily comes out and says our housing levy money is taken to a bond. And they present facts. And the government doesn't even react. Doesn't answer. National Treasury, nobody explains why they want to borrow their own money. Money they've taken from us. And then come back to us for more money to pay the interest. It's not that the government has its own money. We are the government. So why are people not asking these questions? But you tell me, Eric.
Well, this is the thing, Jimmy, though. Can you ask a question about something that you don't have, at the very least, at least a basic understanding of exactly what
this is criminality.
Sure, but
we don't even need to ask. We just need to state it for what it is. This is criminality. These people should be hauled to court. It's so simple. You break the law, you go to court. Somebody steals money, this is theft of money. Go to court. Because if you're not following the law, then it is theft. You're breaking law, go to court.
So how come we don't even have these cases in court, Jimmy?
That's the point. Today, even if we went to court and said we want private prosecution, the DPP will be there saying no. If we took it to the DPP or took it to CID, how far will they go? And you want to believe their institutions.
But have you done it?
Okay, so who is the one who is responsible?
Okay,
who signs the warrants? Even if we have, like now, okay, I can tell you. We were very keen on SGR because that's an open and shut case. It went to court. The Court of Appeal said it was an illegal contract. The Supreme Court says that it was illegal. It was a government to government. In fact, there's no contract between Kenya Airways and China Road and Bridge. Okay? I say, okay, that's as far as it has gone. All right. Now we come back and we show everybody numbers. By the way, this thing that was 500, we paid 1.2 trillion for it. 700 billion above. Okay? Yes, that representation has been made to officials. But do you know, it takes an international organization to come and say, we are interested in that documentation. We want to take this to court in London to save the Kenyan people. It takes lawyers outside who seemingly care more about Kenyans' human rights status
than Kenyans.
Than Kenyans. All right. Yet every day we lament, we don't have money, the economy. We are lamenting, but the reason is right before our eyes. It is not coming because of the finance bill. Those are just symptoms.
Sure.
What are the causations?
Absolutely. And
what are the causes?
Here we are revealing them, time after time and saying this is what the issue is. The biggest problem here being that Kenyans are paying for a debt for which it is not clear what that money was used for. That's very clear. And that going into the future, taxes will be raised to look for money to fund either development.
No, there's no money for funding development. You can see. There's no money. It's just going to pay debt.
Right.
Yes. There's no development
here. So you can speak out on it and say that, look, something has happened. But then what happens after that? And I think that's where we are. What happens after that, Jimmy?
Which development? I need to just go back a bit.
All right. To fund development, no, to fund debt payment. Let's put it back. To fund debt payment, right? Development, that's a story.
I remember this regime talking about how they are going to subsidize production, fertilizer, not consumption. That fertilizer ended up becoming what? Right. And do you hear about that story anymore?
No.
All right. So they said they are doing housing. Are you hearing anybody buying housing? Are you hearing this great grand 200,000 houses that are being bought by people?
They're coming.
They are coming.
Yeah.
200,000 a year it was. We are coming to the end of the year.
Yeah.
They have not returned the housing levy. They are actually investing it so that we pay more. So tell me, where are you hearing this development?
So
it's here. It's 235 billion shillings.
Building markets,
right, on an original budget of 870, which was brought down to 457. Hakuna development hapa.
Got it. Now, the question is, if we are saying that something needs to be done, I keep going to that. What is that something beyond? Because we can speak up and say that we are very aware of what's happening. We can say that it's very clear that even if we don't want to be as bold as to come out and say that money is being stolen or that money is being put into the pockets of a few individuals here and there, that you say that, okay, money has gone missing. If you want to be diplomatic, money has gone missing. And we start asking, we want to know where the money is. What happens beyond that? Because I really do believe that we must be solution-oriented.
Now, are we
going to have a populace of people who will continue to speak out until something is done? What?
You see, when you analyze the debt payment, okay, this 1.86, you find 1.1 trillion here is interest payments.
Yeah, just on interest.
Okay. This financial, this next coming budget, very similar figures. So who are these beneficiaries?
It's not Kenyans.
Some of it is, because the domestic banks are big beneficiaries of this. Insurance companies are big beneficiaries. Pension funds are big beneficiaries of this illegality. Yes. We are eating our own. Yeah.
And
which bank here is declaring losses?
None.
Right. Yet how are they declaring losses when how are they declaring profits and we all have losses? There's no business here. I mean, you're hearing manufacturers saying they're closing down.
So it's business with government.
Yes. Why? What is this conspiracy? That 10% I was talking about.
The elite.
It is called planned poverty. We are being disenfranchised, and until we wake up and take the bull by the horns and say we are not going to accept that mode and structure anymore, this will not be solved.
What would that look like? When the people of Kenya are saying that we're not going to accept this anymore, what does that look like? Does that mean that you're a member of parliament at the National Assembly or the Senate to say, look, you guys are tasked with the responsibility of oversight. We demand that you do something about this. What does that look like when we say that Kenyans are not going to take it anymore?
It means first and foremost taking over the presidency with a revolutionary mind. Because we are people who trickle down, top down. The presidency must be a revolutionary mind. And that revolutionary mind will revolutionize every institution in this land. That's where it begins. So Kenyans who are like-minded must seize that seat called presidency away from one William Samoei Ruto. As long as he is there, our trajectory is, as I was saying, a sinking ship. Yes.
A lot is happening in the country, Jimmy, as we come to the conclusion of this. Now we are seeing this is the National Prayer Breakfast that's going on. All leaders are meeting to pray for the country. The message this time is hope. Okay? In the last couple of weeks, we've seen, for example, there was the Limuru 3. Were you there, Jimmy?
No, I wasn't there.
Were you invited?
Yes, I was.
Why didn't you go?
Yes, I was. I have great respect for Martha and Kioni, who we had a chat with. And we just had a variance of opinion about the structure of that Limuru 3. My view is that Limuru 3, in the contestation of history, was always a forum where a political direction was taken. And in fact, the very first one led to what you saw as the birth of KANU. The next one was Uhuru. But even the one of KANU had a mixture of communities, 1961. It did not just have Mount Kenya. My view was that we are not at that point. The point we are at in this country is to cement this thing called our pain, called the economy. We need to talk about it. We need to understand it. We need to bring the people you're asking me about earlier on the same page as to what is this pain, what is our chain, what is this chain that is finishing us. And once we educate people of that, the leadership will come. To be very simple, what we need to do, because that leadership, when it sits on that chair, must be very clear of the contract agreement with the people of this country. And they must abide by it, not go there and start doing their own things, their own shenanigans. It must be very clear. And it can only be clear if there is a real covenant of understanding.
The leaders. Yeah. But that was the argument that was fronted by Kioni and Martha were here ahead of the conference.
Yes.
And they said part of the reason why they are holding these conferences is to have those conversations, to bring out where the pain points are.
Now, the pain points are not just the community of Mount Kenya. The pain points are across the nation.
The
yes.
So, my view was, why don't we call it an economic forum? Right? And if you can only do it in Kiambu today, let's take it to other counties tomorrow, where it is an economic forum to discuss this pain. Right? The kind of debate we're having here is a larger forum. Okay? And then from there, we'll have a climax, right? As a nation. Okay? Why Mount Kenya people are feeling it more than anybody else is because whether it's an accident of history or it is just the way the people of the mountain are. They are, and I can show you what is called the report on the different economic belts of Kenya. I have an updated one to December 2023. In fact, it was funded by DFID. 30% of the GDP of this nation comes from the 10 counties of Mount Kenya, excluding Nairobi. All right? If you add Nairobi, it is getting to about 44-45% of GDP. If you look at tax, they say that we are over half of the taxation. They are generally the top of every pyramid, even the bottom pyramid. So the people of the mountain feel it a lot quicker than others. And I'll give you an example. There's this whole argument about, why are you charging avocado, for example? But avocado is structured. You can catch them when they are selling it. They're in cooperatives. But somebody fishing in the lake, how do you catch him?
They don't have
or somebody who's selling a cuckoo to the next door neighbor, right? So these are the problems. So they are facing it. But it's a national problem. It is not a Mount Kenya problem.
So then, will Safina organize something like that?
Yes. Now, what I wanted and was hoping is that we are going to raise this, right? The same parties, because one thing Martha and Kioni did was bring parties together. Now we need to join with other parties that are beyond the region and start talking about this economic formula. And yes, we are doing it. We are going to initiate it. We've started initiating it, and I hope that we can get everybody on board to discuss this.
We'll wait for that.
Yeah.
Asante sana.
Asante.
Jimmy, always
God
a pleasure
you.
having you.
Thank you.
Jimmy Wanjeke has been our guest for the last 2 hours. We've been talking about he calls it the illegality. We've been talking about the budget, the debt.
The crime.
The crime.
The crime.
The crime. I like that.
Thank you very much for tuning in to the Situation Room this second Friday of this week. Tomorrow will be the final Friday of May, the 31st. And we'll be here, God willing. Have a lovely day. It's now 10 a.m.
God bless you.